Rock Paper Shotgun just finished updating their top 100 PC games of all time list, which they update, I think, once a year. It might be bi-yearly. Can't recall. But, yeah, might as well go over it. They have 100 to 51, then they have 50 to 1, and then I think they also have like an honorable mentions list. I think that's about it. We'll be good and we'll read the intro. We won't just be straight up, you know, reaction YouTubers who don't read the intro and then be like, why doesn't this have any games from the Xbox? Well, because it's the PC. But let's get some more specific. Oh, spoilers. Welcome to the 2023 edition of the RPS 100, our annual celebration of our favorite PC games of all time. Like previous years, this isn't a list of the definitive best PC games of all time, nor is it about what's considered the most important or influential. Rather, this is a ranking that reflects who we are as a team, our own personal bestest best, so to speak, and the games that are nearest and dearest to our collective hive mind hearts. Once again, we're splitting the list in 2 articles this year, so come on in and find out what's made the cut in part 1 below. See, I like these kinds of lists more, because trying to, like, that rules out Homestuck. Trying to like objectively rank what's the most important, I think usually ends up being pretty lame. Like, what list was it that came out earlier this year, beginning of this year, that got kind of torn apart for having just like no variety whatsoever? And everyone had to be like, well, yeah, of course there's not going to be any variety because all of the people voting are taken as an aggregate of their top 10. And just like, no matter, even if 10% of people said that, I don't know, Fez was their number 10, that's not enough to edge out all the other numbers, because every single one of those people probably put like The Last of Us somewhere. And if The Last of Us is somewhere and it's somewhere high, then that means it ranks high and it pushes something else out. So it's nice to have something that's more like this. Even though this is also an aggregate, it's an aggregate of a specific amount of people at RPS, instead of like, we picked 100 cool smart games people, you know? To make sure the RPS 100 is as accurate and representative of the current team as possible, we changed how we did the voting for this year's list, with each member of staff submitting their top 25 favorite games rather than just a top 10 like previous years. Okay, that's good. Should give even more variety. This gave us a much more varied list than we had last year, and is probably also why some games have seen some quite large jumps up and down the rankings. I did see one game on accident that had it, from what I remember, a huge jump. We'll be sticking with this method going forward, so hopefully future iterations will avoid such wild fluctuations. We also wanted to make this year's RPS 100 a bigger and more exciting event in our editorial calendar, so in addition to publishing both halves of the list this week, we'll be following up the reveal of part 2 with even more articles and features centered around our top 10. I did see what number 100 is. It's 80 days. And then I think a specific person writes each thing, right? Oh, maybe not. 80 Days never fails to surprise me. Whatever route I take on this globe-trotting adaptation of Jules Verne's classic novel, there's always a new stone to unturn, a new path to uncover. Even slipping down an alleyway in a new city can lead to a thrilling tangent, because when it's Inkle pulling the strings in this steampunk-infused travel venture, you know that you're in for a treat. It could easily be a sword at your throat or an enticing parlor that you'll happily lose precious days to, simply because it made your time there that bit more memorable. Sure, you've got a deadline to meet, but as anyone who's played 80 Days will know, it's the journey, not the destination, that matters most here, Casey. I have not played this game. Even after playing successive Inkle games, I've just never done it. In fact, I think most of what I know about 80 Days is specifically from these lists from Rock, Paper, Shotgun. Is like Where the Water Tastes Like Wine. No, I believe it's like a roguelite where you have to travel around the world in 80 days, and it's like a story-based thing. That's my understanding of it anyways. We can go look at the Steam page. Oh fuck, I thought that would open a separate tab. Well, now I know not to do that. Sorry, I'm speed reading. Here we go. Yeah, flexible interactive narrative with thousands of choices, massively replayable, explore a 3D globe, richly imagined. Race? Just kidding. Race real people in real time, live multiplayer feed. Yeah. It's kind of choose your own adventures with some stats. I really like it. Nice. Yeah, I've always heard good things, but like I said, I think I've mostly heard them from RPS. And then I think, like, Inkle has a few games now. Heaven's Vault I need to play. I would be shocked if Heaven's Vault wasn't also on the list. I've played quite a lot of Overboard. Overboard is really good. I love Overboard. Which is also not dissimilar to 80 Days in terms of structure, but Overboard is that you're on a boat and there's been a murder, and you did it. you killed your husband, and so you need to try to, there's like all these different paths you can go down to try to cover it up and stuff. So yeah. Can't wait for the next Dinkle game. Yeah, exciting. I can kind of see the name of the next game. I should start using my arrow keys so I don't accidentally spoil the next thing. A good old reverse Columbo. Overboard is great. Heaven's Vault is on my 2 playlist too. I feel like I hear that a lot, Mike. Myself included. It's like so many people are like, I know I'm gonna like Heaven's Vault, but I haven't played it yet. I see Peggle. It looks so cute. What's the sound of dopamine soaking in your brain and making it feel all fizzy and nice? It's the sound of a peg being hit by a marble. A synthesized metallic clang. 1 peg is lovely. 2 pegs hit in quick succession, a treat. A row of pegs lined up neatly, forming a perfect arc that smoothly carries your marble across its surface. If you could bottle that feeling, you'd be arrested for selling it. Peggle is more than just a great puzzle game. It's a joy machine. I love how effusive this is. Yeah, Peggle's a classic for sure. I wonder if they'll have Plants vs. Zombies on here. I hope so. I love Plants vs. Zombies. That was one of like the first PC games I played. Okami. Well, Okami HD, because the original Okami is not on PC, but then they ported it. Still one of the best Zelda-likes to this day. Okay. Okami is a wild, action-packed adventure through the annals of Japanese mythology. You play as the sun goddess Amaterasu, who descends to the land of Nippon as a wolf to save it from an evil darkness, and you'll be helping humans, sparrows, mermaids, bamboo princesses, and more along the way. Its delicate inkbrush visuals still look utterly gorgeous thanks to Capcom's 2017 HD remaster, and as you'd expect from a team that later went on to form the foundations of leading action studio Platinum Games, Okami's calligraphy combat remains as peerless today as it first did back in 2006. A true all-timer. I think I have Okami, but I'm still not sure what kind of game it is. A third-person platformer. Yeah, it's like a character action platformer, kind of. I mean, I'm just glad. The one thing that I've really heard about Okami HD is that, like, in Okami, you do the paintbrush strokes to, like, cast your little spells and stuff. And this game came out on the Nintendo Wii, and doing that shit was impossible. At least in my personal experience with the Nintendo Wii, I could not get a single fucking thing to work. So shoutouts to Okami HD. It is nice though we know ports can be on here. Oh, there's another one. The sacrilege of having Red Dead Redemption 2 so low. A prequel to the first game, RDR2 flexes the full might of Rockstar's cinema with a Wild West so gorgeous I don't think it's an overstatement to say it's a timeless technical showcase. For all the might of its open world though, Arthur Morgan's story is what sticks with me the most. Through a mixture of quiet moments and spectacular heists, you learn what it means to be a veteran of the Vanderlyn gang. And you learn how the march of time can suffocate the inner circle. Great horse testicle physics too. Okami's a very gorgeous game. It's too long. It's so fucking long. Like that was we were in the fucking trenches in 2006. We were in the trenches in this era. Like the 2 most beautiful games ever. I'm slightly exaggerating. The Legend of Zelda Wind Waker and Okami. I hope you have 100 fucking hours to set aside. Have fun, asshole. Okami's like Alien Isolation in that it has a good ending point and then keeps going. Yes. Dark Wizard Money Game. Shadow Wizard Money Gang. You will finally love casting spells. I'm not big on cowboy games or overly long games, so I don't have a problem with RDR being this though. Oh, me neither. Me neither at all. I mean, I do love cowboys, but... Well, actually, I was going to say, I don't like the vision of what cowboys are, since it's not realistic, but from what I know of RDR2, it is a little bit more genuinely realistic. I'm from Texas, what can I say? I love a cowboy. One day I'll actually play Wind Waker. I think it's good, but like I said, my fondest memories of Wind Waker are for the first, 10 hours of it, and then I don't remember anything really, because I think that there's a huge dip in quality at a certain point. But yeah, RDR. I mean, I'm morally opposed to playing RDR2. I've never played it myself because that would require owning it, and they crunch the ever-loving shit out of their employees to make this game. It's a technical masterpiece, and that's cool and whatever, but I don't give a shit. You know. Because of the crunch, and also because that kind of stuff doesn't, for me, really matter or really do anything. keep moving on. The Witcher 3 at 96. Oh, they're getting saucy in the list. Previous position 71, minus 25. Sheesh. The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt is one of perhaps 4 open-world RPGs from the past 12 years that has genuinely changed the genre landscape. Like most RPGs, the world is inordinately massive, but, and I know it's a cliche, it truly feels like a living, breathing world. The first time you step into the wastelands of Velen or the packed streets of Novigrad, it's dizzying. So much to do, beasts to hunt, concoctions to brew, treasures to find. And most of all, people. So many people, most of them ready to deceive or double-cross you the moment it benefits them. Plus that music, gosh. Hey. Like, the list is kind of like... I don't want to say it's a mess so far, but it's being colored by the big AAA releases, so it's funny that these are all the way at the bottom. Obviously, there are a lot of fucking PC games out there, but these guys being at the bottom, I'm like, ooh. So why not take the long way? You'll never know if you don't go. Yeah, I'm kind of surprised at Witcher this low. At least Witcher 3 this low. It's very open-worldy so far. Yeah, I suspect that all of these being so low is probably... I mean, obviously, minus 44 for this one. I think part of that might be them changing the list from top 10 to top 25. So like now the people who... There's a wider spread of the open worlds of the AAAs. Less recency on Valheim. Yeah, that's probably part of what tanked Valheim, I think. Whenever I think of Valheim, I think first of the water. The way it laps upon the shore, fills holes naturally. Then there's the way smoke gathers inside rooms until you build a chimney, and wooden structures decay in heavy rain. Heavy rain? Thank God that can't be on here. Oh no, or can it? Didn't it get ported? Oh shit, oh fuck. When it comes to survival crafting games, Valheim doesn't go crazy simulating little things like food, drink, and other bodily needs. It knows that stuff is dull as dishwater. British ass website. The best things to simulate are the things that immerse you in its beautifully unique, procedurally generated worlds. At this, Valheim has no equal. Yeah, I think Valheim is cool and fun. There's a reason it captured people so hard, but you know, it naturally has like the open world, like pseudo MMO curse, where its recency is just like one of the more important things about it, in terms of popularity. CS:GO. Is CS2 real yet? I can't remember. Some might argue CS Source or CS 1.6 deserve the spot more, and I respectfully disagree. CS:GO retuned the tactical FPS, making it the definitive space for intense shootouts on Dust 2, and arguably some of the most exciting esports moments over the last few years. Emphasis. Don't let its simplistic looks deceive you. Matches require mouse finesse, economical No? I've never seen this word in my life. I'm assuming it's French, so it'd be like new. And a healthy dose of teamwork. There's a reason why it's been a Steam mainstay since 2012. Kustrik Gloof. I don't know. CSGO is the one with the bizarre gun skin market. CSGO is the one with the tacit gambling support. I always get Valheim and V Rising confused. That's fair. They had a pretty long overlap window where they were both really popular at the same time. New smarts. Yeah, I assume it means like know-how. It has problems both in and out of the game, but I'd still put it purely because of how big of an influence on PC gaming it was overall throughout the years. Oh yeah, I definitely think it's fair. I would still put Gmod first, but I don't know if that's just me. For me, I always see CSGO as just kind of lame. Tales from the Borderlands. Tales from the Borderlands. But then this has to beg the question: what other, if other, will there be other? Will you wear wigs? Will there be other Telltale games on the list? And if so, which ones will they be? This is the best Borderlands game? Okay, true. Absolutely true. I'm just kind of surprised to see it. The best game in Gearbox's Borderlands looter shooter series is actually an episodic comedy heist caper with an emphasis on story from an entirely different studio. Who knew? Well, everyone, Tales follow Hyperion company man Reese and Pandoran con artist Fiona on a MacGuffin adventure, getting into many a scrape and befriending several a robot along the way. It has oodles of heart, excellent voice acting, and the payoffs over several episodes really land. Plus, it's genuinely properly funny, and don't get me started on the direction or the music. We'll be here all day. It's back in stores after a long absence, and the bar is higher as a result. Hey. Wolf Among Us, a Wolf Among Us. if another Telltale's or something weird like that Batman one. I don't think the Batman one will rank because that was always kind of like after Telltale's like fall. I think TWoW has a really high chance of being on here, but for me the best Telltale games are the first two Walking Dead games. That's me. The Minecraft Telltale game as a placeholder for Minecraft as a whole. You don't think Minecraft regular will be on the list? I like Borderlands 1 and 2, but Tales kind of recontextualized both games for me and made me appreciate the world and its potential for cool stories. Yeah, I don't really like the mainline, I guess you'd say, Borderlands games, because I think they really heavily rely on you having friends to play with, and I didn't have friends who played games growing up, so I just didn't like them. And I think the sense of humor doesn't land for me. Tales is great, but not as good as The Walking Dead first season. The Walking Dead game season 1 knocked me the fuck out. I remember like when The Last of Us came out and was getting popular, and especially like years later people talking about how iconic The Last of Us was. I was like, did you guys not fucking play The Walking Dead game season 1? Like, what are we even talking about, folks? Anyways, oh, Satisfactory. You could easily swap Satisfactory out with any of its automated factory building siblings, but the thing that sets Coffee Stain's attempt apart is its ambition. The decision to adapt the complexity and scale of Factory into 3D is wild, and yet somehow Satisfactory manages to pull it off. This is every bit as detailed a factory simulation you can find elsewhere, but rendered and animated beautifully. It's funny, too, framing your endeavor to wrench resources from the crust of alien worlds as the natural endgame of late-stage capitalism. Best of all, as it's still in early access, it simply gets better with each major update. People always bring this up, it's funny. Like, Satisfactory, it's so funny because it always talks about how it's capitalism and how you're extracting the resources, but it's like, honey, you're still extracting the resources in a capitalist manner. Do you know what I mean? It's like, you can wink wink nudge nudge all you want, but hey. Final Fantasy VIII Remastered, interesting. The answer to what's the best Final Fantasy game is simple. This is why what I really like is they always pick like one of the people who like the game the most to write the thing about it. The answer to what's the best Final Fantasy game is simple. It's 8, and more specifically Square Enix's 2019 remaster of it. It hasn't aged all that well since its original release 20 odd years ago, admittedly, but with spruced up character models and the actual proper goddamn soundtrack, it's the best version we've got. And what a stonking RPG it still is, too. As rookie military cadet Squall and his fellow classmates get thrust into a war of worldwide magical espionage and assassinations, where the fabric of time itself is at risk. It has everything you could possibly want from a Final Fantasy game. A sweeping romance, aliens, witches, a touch of time travel, and swords that are also guns. It also has a stonkingly good card game. Final Fantasy VIII seems to be a sleeper hit with a lot of people. I have not finaled a fantasy, so I have no input here. I mean, I think 10 is the best FF. It's the one I've played the most of, but I also, like, as someone... I'm similar to you, Moldy Lemons. I was talking about this earlier. I wasn't totally allowed to play games as a kid. Like, I was, but it was kind of strict, and I couldn't play too many, or for too long, and blah, 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 blah. So I watched a shitload of Let's Plays on YouTube once I was, like, 11, 12. So I've seen every Final Fantasy 7 onwards played, and I think 10 has the best story and the best everything. Oh, this one says it's a new entry. Okay, so this must be, presumably this is Casey's, like, you know, somewhere between 11 and 25. The only game to genuinely make me want to lose. Pyre is the most easily forgotten of Supergiant's creations, but it's also in many ways the most special among a selection of extremely special games. Set in probably the most beautiful world I've ever seen, you play the role of a reader, capital R, in a purgatory fantasy realm. The only way home is to use your readery powers to play matches of a unique fantasy basketball-esque sport against fellow residents, each with their own heartfelt stories and reasons for needing to get home. All of Supergiant's signature animation and beauty wrapped in their most daring, genre-defying creation to date. Let's go! Gwent was the only one that feels like it was designed to be a standalone game, separate from the game it's a part of, which is why it's so good. And it is a standalone game now, right? We say think so. Oh, it says this is also a new entry, Pyre is. As much a love letter to early Zelda adventures as it is an isometric take on the Souls series, Death's Door is a fabulous blend of the two that delivers challenging yet surmountable combat encounters alongside decaying dungeons stuffed full of puzzles and looping passageways. As a crow, it's your job to deliver souls into the afterlife, but what if people simply refuse to die? What becomes of them? And of you? The answers are surprisingly profound, delivered via an eclectic cast of characters whose stories are equal parts funny and tragic. Oh, you know, Tunic's gotta be on here. Death's Door seems good. When Death's Door came out, I mean, I would presume this partially owes to it being published by Devolver, but I remember seeing a lot of people playing this. It was on a lot of end of year lists too. Oh, Stanley Parable 88. This is honestly a little lower than I thought. Wait, it's a new entry from RPS? That surprises me, actually. Huh. Come for the sarcastic joke, stay for the exquisite cross-stitching of branching narrative and level design trickery. The Stanley Parable is clever in a number of facets, but instead of basking in its own wit, it trusts you enough to explore the space-breaking corridors of Stanley's moldy office building and discover its secrets for yourself. The results can be funny or thoughtful and always, always surprising. It's also a prime example of how lovable oddities can make it big on PC, and of the good that comes when modding is supported rather than feared. Oh, also, one thing I just thought of, Portal will be top 10 also, it's gotta be. I'll be surprised if Infinite's on this list. I don't think it will be. I would be very surprised too. Oh, hey, there's Cyberpunk. I was fucking wrong. I was gonna say, I'll be surprised if Infinite's on the list. I will be equally surprised if Bioshock 1 is not on the list. I would be surprised. I think 1 and System Shock, like, Bioshock 1, it's gotta be on there. System Shock 2, I think will be on there. I think it will be. Bioshock 1 I like, but there's this thing with the Bioshock series and with all of Arcane's games that I cannot get over, where it feels like there is a bowling ball tied to the camera. It feels so sludgy and weird, and I hate it. I can't get over it. I like the bald guy with the robot arm. Like, dude, you couldn't get cyber hair? He likes it. Oh no, see, because he's got this thing on his forehead. He can't put any hair there. But he said, keep the rest of the hair. Keep the rest of it. I won't be bald. To say Cyberpunk 2077 got off to a rough start would be an understatement, but I've always been a Night City liker, because if you look past the main story, you'll find some cracking stories behind the buzz of your phone or the pulses of neon. Excuse me. If you accept it won't deliver on all of its promises, you've got an open world that'll infect your brain like some malware. Soak in the dark on your glowy bike, then hack some vicious punks so their metal eyes self-destruct. That's a regular evening in Night City, and there's nothing quite like it. This is, except for the words Night City and Cyberpunk 2077, this is indistinguishable from a review of Fallout 3. Hey Brooklyn, how you doing? It's an immersive sim classic, though. The System Shock 1 sucks to control, so they made their game suck to control too. But it's like, it doesn't even suck to control in a specific or evocative way. The camera just feels bad. Hey Pantera, cyber hair is probably super overpriced. It's gotta be. But the question is, would it be more expensive than like a regular human hair unit? Would a human hair unit be more or less expensive in a world where cyber hair exists? Make you think. Will they make cyber Kanekalon? I don't know. They probably will. They'll make like weird gentrifier cyber Kanekalon and then sell it like it's better. I still haven't played this game because of all the weird transphobia from the devs in the months leading up to its release. Oh, and I think that's very fair. I don't fuck with CD Projekt Red. Some kind of DRM on regular human hair, right? Get a plate up there and stick a broom end on it, yeah. Oh, Omori. I didn't even think of Omori. There's also some weird stuff with this developer. If y'all have been on Tumblr, you know. An RPG Maker game that was decisively a modern cult classic before it was even released, which is whatever. Omori tells the story of a group of kids exploring a magical dream world conjured up by a sleeping boy named Omori. Undertale-style humor meets Humaniki sinister horror to make a cute but creepy adventure with a lot of heart to boot. Classic RPG Maker tropes might be hiding in plain sight, but Omori's extensive, overarching story, multiverse of worlds, enormous soundtrack, its giant roster of lovable characters, and fully fledged turn-based battle system is, put simply, impressive. The composer, right? Well, because the composer's slime something, right? Yeah, who Slime Girls, who was also the composer for Button City, self-admitted abuser, I'm pretty sure, like not cool person. However, unfortunately, Mike, that is not the end of it, because the developer and publisher Omocat, I'm not gonna get into the whole thing because it is like a whole like I could make an iceberg video out of it. But to make a long fucking story short, Omocat is an old school, like extremely Tumblr famous artist from like the early 2010s. And the character who would become Omori, a lot of weirdness about a teenage boy. But that's like the SparkNotes version. Is that like Omocat seems like a pervert, specifically making a lot of suggestive content of underage boys. The origins of the main character of Omori are really fucking weird. But yeah, we won't get into it more than that because there's a bunch of other stuff all generating out from there. But that's basically what you need to know about why this is weird. But yeah. Oh hey, here's Return to Monkey Island. I thought this would be super high though. I'm kind of surprised. Oh no, there's spoilers for the next one. But yeah, just so y'all are aware. The original Monkey Island piratical point-and-click adventure was and is a cultural touchstone for many, including me. What joy, then, to get a new entry in the series by the original creators, starring many of the original cast as Guybrush looks back on an old adventure. But Return isn't just for nostalgic fans. The 2D art is absolutely gorgeous, the hint system is an unbelievable work of genius, and the story is sweet and relatable without being indulgent. It's the point-and-click adventure to play if you think you don't like the genre. I'm surprised it's on here, but I assume they would just have Monkey Island 1. I assume that they would have this one, honestly. They might have both. Like, they might have both 1 and Return. I wonder if we'll see Grim Fandango on here at some point. I've heard great stuff about this one, but I just can't get into point and clicks, although I might try it eventually. I've read they streamline a lot of stuff. I've read that about Return too, but I haven't. But I'll also say that I don't think I'm the person to ask because I really like point and click games. Like, even when they're obscure as fuck, I usually have a good time. So it's difficult for me to gauge. Like, I can totally see why people don't like point and clicks, because historically there's so much just fucking bullshit in them. But you know, I sometimes enjoy the bullshit. I think Thimbleweed Park is like the other one that's most often recommended to people who are new, and I would generally agree with that. There's a couple stinkers in Thimbleweed Park puzzle wise, but I don't think there's any that are like totally ridiculous. There are 267 human characters in Prey's main campaign, and each one has a name. Almost all of them have some level of backstory, most have a unique character model, a surprising amount have their own voice-acted audio logs. By the end of the game, if you've done everything, you'll have located every NPC and uncovered their fate. You don't need to do this to finish the game, but you can. This is what makes poor, oft-neglected Prey one of the best games to come out of Arcane. The completeness of the world truly earns it the title of immersive sim. Oft-neglected? Prey is one of the more critically acclaimed games of all time. What do they mean by oft-neglected? Oh yeah, it didn't sell a lot, but like, I guess... I feel like oft-neglected is just like so... I feel like it's a bit dramatic, perhaps, for like it didn't sell super well. I don't know, maybe just me. It's the pyre of Arcane's catalog? Oh, I guess it must be, huh? Yeah, it's no Dishonored, is it? Money-wise. Fame-wise. Yeah, Prey 1 and this have nothing to do with each other. I'm kind of interested to play Prey 1. But we'll see. Yeah, I enjoyed Prey a decent amount. I played some of it on stream. Like, I think just, like I said, I don't like how the camera controls in Arcane's games. And the story interested me a lot more than Dishonored's did. So maybe one day I should go back to it. What I'd give to get that Prey 2 to actually be made, finished, and released, yeah. It's also no Redfall, which, as we know, made $1 more billion. Arguably, it shouldn't be called Prey. I don't think so either. I remember around the time it was coming out, we were all, like, confused, right? We were all like, what does it have to do with anything? What the fuck are we talking about? It seems like they just had the IP lying around and said, sure. I think you'd hate the ending to Prey. I know the ending to Prey. I like it. It's a little foo-foo, but I like it. Arcane wanted to call it Typhon, and Bethesda had them change the name. Well, if it was gonna be Typhon, then yes, that's probably the correct choice. I don't think that's a good name. Space Shock? Okay, maybe. If the options were Typhon and Space Shock, maybe it's good Bethesda stepped in. And not to cape for the corporate overlord, but I think both those names suck ass. It's at least an interesting ending, right? I can see it being very polarizing. But I think for the type of game that it is, like the genre and the atmosphere and everything, I think it really fits. Bethesda just looking at the names. We'll take the bullet for you here. Oh yes. Fallout 3. Boo. No, I'm just kidding. Conventional PC wisdom decrees that if you vote for a modern Fallout game in one of these lists, it should be Fallout New Vegas, which is a better RPG per se, but for me, Fallout 3 has it beat on atmosphere and world design both. The Capital Wasteland is just so completely, utterly shattered in a way that the sequel's takes on Las Vegas and Boston simply aren't, and a region that feels one day away from disintegrating entirely is just a more interesting place to explore than some essentially functional societies with a bit of dust on them. Rock, Paper, Shotgun is from Britain. I'm just adding that footnote. Oh, the Brits like the destroyed capital. Shocking. How much higher from this will New Vegas be? I don't know. Because I don't know if New Vegas has been on their previous lists. It reminds us of home. The sky is green. No life can form here. And people are eating rats on sticks. Oh yeah. Chicory? Wow. Previous position was 92, now it's up 10. Chicory is good. Do not trust the cutesy art style of Chicory: A Colorful Tale. This one cuts deep. This top-down adventure lets you color in the picture book world, which is vital since all the color from the world has suddenly disappeared. Your tool to bring color back to this monochrome world is a magical wielder's brush, which not only lets you fill your screen with splodgy drawings, but also helps you solve puzzles and overcome boss encounters. That's right, there are boss fights in this world, and not in the way you might expect. Chicory very much explores the art of self-expression and how creators identify with their own work. It's incredibly thought-provoking and will leave your heart aching for more. You just finished that? I was gonna say, Sparks, I remember sometime you were in stream, you were like, oh, I'm like close to the end, but I haven't finished it yet. I think I've already given my thoughts on Chicory a few times. I just think it's too long. That's basically it. Let's see. RE4 2020. Oh, I forgot that this game... Oops, spoilers. I forgot this game came out. Y'all know how I feel about remakes. I'm fucking over it. I'm a million, thousand, trillion% over it. I thought it was going to be regular Resident Evil 4 for a second, and it was just going to be the PC port, and I was like, that's really funny. But then, the best of Capcom's recent string of survival horror remakes, RE4 polishes up the original game with light yet deft hands, tweaking and refining rather than reimagining it completely. The result is a familiar romp through the Spanish countryside that retains the action focus of the original while beefing up its combat and visuals to a modern standard. Snarling villagers stuffed full of dribbly parasites are a far more engaging enemy than simple zombies, capable of countering Leon's attacks and maneuvering out of his way. Ooh, I forgot that the British spelling of maneuver is like that. But is this also partly wrong? Who's to say? A tense and exciting adventure that is arguably on par with the original, which remains a viable alternative that this remake makes no effort to replace. Remake RE5 and 6. No, let's keep pretending 6 doesn't exist, but 5 you can have. The British like Fallout 3 because the radioactive river central to the game reminds them of the Thames. The Pit DLC brings back their beloved smog, and the aliens in Mothership Zeta reminds them of the Queen. Because you killed them? Because the game ends without them alive? But yeah, personally I'm not fond of any of the Resident Evil remakes. I never played 5, but that one is a big oof, right? 5 and 6 are both oofs. Like, 5 needs a complete overhaul of everything. And I think 6 is unsalvageable, personally. A 5 front loads its oofs, right. Like, I can see the game that's good in 5. But 6? No. No. Really like 3R, although I haven't played it myself. I think that's fair. Probably out of all of the remakes, I think so far it's the one that, like, kind of needed its remake the most, arguably. But, like, I don't know. I mean, to be fair, though, or to be honest, though, whatever it is, I don't like 7 either. Resident Evil 7, I don't like at all. I find them to be, like, really boring. Especially because Resident Evil 7, even more so than, like, RE4, not even the remake, the original, even more than, like, RE4 or RE2, RE7 feels so fucking derivative. It just feels like someone watched, like, someone had a movie marathon of, like, the greatest horror movies of all time, and then a bunch of, like, B-movie schlock, and they just ripped it the fuck off. Like, you can literally sequester like different sections of RE7 into the movie that inspired those sections. Like, oh, here's the Texas Chainsaw Massacre scene. Oh, here's the fucking Fear scene. Here's the scene from, like, it just that, like, over and over again. And it's so obvious. It's weird. And, like, I get that it's really scary and whatever, but I don't care. I don't care. Anyway, so I'm meh on any modern Resident Evil stuff. It's cool that people like them or whatever, and Capcom can keep printing money, but I can't be bothered. GTA 5? I can't believe I didn't think, like, oh yeah, GTA 5 will be on here. Even aside from the wacky crimes and spectacle of GTA 5's campaign and the murderous cooperation and competition of GTA Online, San Andreas is the virtual place I most enjoy inhabiting. While many insecure open-world games pack side quests and objectives and collectibles into every square inch, GTA 5 is happy to let you explore empty spaces, hop your BMX over traffic, chase wildlife, race along highways, watch and prod NPCs like a child with an ant farm, and just exist in this space. It's a sandbox where every in-game day can be a whole new experience. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. No, I'm kidding. Kind of forgot GTA exists. I often do. Fun fact, RE7 was written by the same guy who made Fear. You can tell by the fact, I was going to say, that entire old section feels exactly like Fear. Specifically Fear 3. I don't know why, but Fear 3. You can tell by the fact that he has a scary little girl who's actually old, just like in Fear. I don't get people saying RE7 is so original, it revitalized the horror genre, when it just took a decade of indie games innovation from the horror genre and presented it as its own. Oh yes. Should have been 4 instead of 5 on this list. I haven't played either of them, but GTA 5 was such a force that I see it. Hey, there's KOTOR. Someone, wait. Yeah, sorry, I had to think of The Old Republic for a second, and I was like, is that the right abbreviation? Someone was saying KOTOR earlier. It's got everything. BioWare, Star Wars, Jennifer Hale, a ridiculously rigid moral binary system, robots, space names, a head tentacle teen, amnesia, custom lightsabers, a mysterious woman guiding you who is definitely not evil, temples, stacking choices, a Mandalorian. You love those now, don't you? Ooh, get 'em. There are some who would argue that this is still BioWare's best RPG, and they're not right, but they're definitely not wrong either. Oh, before your eyes! Oh, the picture's broken. Well. I feel like KOTOR is like System Shock 2 and Deus Ex 1 to me, as I'm too stupid to get over the old control schemes in UI. No, but that's fair. I think System Shock 2 is like, I don't want to have to play it with anything. Keyboard and mouse, controller, I don't care, I don't want to play it. Before Your Eyes is a nice touch here. It says it went up too. That's good. Best experience with a webcam on. This is a story of a soul's journey through the afterlife driven by your blinks. Close your lids in real life and you'll advance time in-game, pushing your character's story forwards and your tears closer to your ducks. Occasionally, there might be times where you want to bask in the moment, so you desperately fight the automatic urge to blink. Its first-person perspective and physical ties mean you're fully enveloped for 90 minutes, in what can only be described as an emotional devastator. What a beautiful thing, and what a beautiful thing that you can recommend to anyone, no matter if they're into games or not. Oh, that's nice. This is 2021? Why did I think it was 2022? Let's see, can I get the picture to work? Oh yeah, it's this classic one. I feel like any promo of Before Your Eyes, it's always this screenshot, or at least a screenshot of him. Which is fair, he's a very visually striking character. Signalis is 77. Well, people liking the Signalis. Also a new entry, Signalis is spellbinding, which is a weird way of describing a survival horror game, but is completely accurate. You play as Elster, an android who wakes up on an abandoned shuttle on a strange planet and begins searching for a mysterious woman. Her investigation takes her to the bowels of an underground facility filled with strange, fleshy creatures and broken memories of her past. Navigating its maze of dark metallic corridors and blasting holes and abominations is the least frightening aspect of this horror game. It signals this cosmic mystery that will leave you full of dread. The further you delve into its story, the more tangled you get in its web. I heard a lot of good things about Signalis. Unfortunately, it has no vision accessibility whatsoever, and, you know, old school survival horror is not my favorite thing, so I just haven't played it. I'd probably watch one of them big ol' video essays about the story sometime. But I remember playing the demo, and I was like, oh, so just no vision stuff at all. Okay, I'm good then. I'll have to be good out here, because I can't see the enemies or the doorways most of the time. And, like, granted, a lot of this style of survival horror, especially isometric, is about memorizing stuff, but it's not fun. Would be a great wingman game? Yeah, that's true. That's true. There are definitely ways to play it, but I've been too lazy. It also does a lot of screen wibbling stuff as enemy effects. Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, so I don't think I'm gonna physically be able to play it. That was a real bummer for me. I remember playing the demo when I was still at Fanbyte, and I was potentially gonna do like a demo roundup thing for Fanbyte. I was so excited to play Signalis. I loved the trailers. I've been following it for like a year, and I played the demo for maybe 20 minutes, and I was just like, fuck. Like, it's like I can't do it. And that's pretty disappointing, so. Very sad, but what can you do? Gabriel Knight, Sins of the Fathers! Mike, are you still here? Let's turn the fuck up, baby! Let's go! Gabriel Knight, Sins of the Fathers is a golden age point-and-click adventure, deservedly remembered for being one of those rare games that is truly outstanding across the board. The writing, voice acting, music, and puzzles are all top-notch, and even if the graphics betray the game's origins in the early 90s, who could deny the retro beauty of that pixel art? For many millennial children, this was one of our first truly grown-up video games, featuring characters who felt like real people grappling with a genuinely chilling mystery. Thankfully, this classic remains just as accessible now as it was 30 years ago. Tim Curry Time Warp! IMO should be the sequel, but love to see it. Yeah, there's still a chance, but I think it'll, like, the idea of having a top 100 PC game list of all time and having both Gabriel Knight games, I wouldn't put it past RPS, and it would be really funny. But I don't think it'll happen. I don't think. If Night in the Woods isn't here, we riot. I think it'll be on here. I think Night in the Woods and Celeste will both be on here. But, like, generally, those are very high. I think partially because people know that, like, writers know people will riot. That always has to be a factor. Like, not to, like, say anything about the RPS folks, but if I was writing something like this, you have to think part of you would want to rank something popular just a little bit higher. Oh, Civ 6. Forgot about Civ 6, but this makes sense. Lead a society from 4000 BC through to the near future in the classic turn-based strategy series which caused millions to stay up past 4 a.m. muttering the mantra, one more turn. Honestly, I voted for whichever civilization gets the most votes, hoping someone else would pick a specific game for me. They did not. So sure, Civ 6 with its expansions is an amazing game. So is a fully loaded Civ 5 for a slightly different experience. So is Civ 4. I'm sure some favor the others too. Civ is a way of life with a different game for every mood. I think the PC audience is just more receptive to indies too. Yeah, I'd say so. Especially because like PC is naturally more conducive to indie success because you don't have to have a console, which is owned by the people who make the games. Right? Like, you know, if you buy a Nintendo, then congratulations, a bunch of your shit is Nintendo games because duh. Same thing for Sega. Obviously there's other stuff there, but the PC naturally more conducive to it. Civ 6 over 5 is a bold decision. You think so? I mean, I guess this person said right here. It's a great choice. So is Civ 5 for a slightly different experience. Civ 6 is a good one. I've spent so many hours in it when it got ported to Switch. It's on the Switch? I didn't know that. Also, I think I saw the next one. I was going to say, I swear I read the words MGS, or Metal Gear Solid. Oops, spoilers. It's a terrible shame that Metal Gear Solid's swan song feels incomplete, haunted by the game it perhaps might have been. Despite this phantom pain, it's still an absolute monster of an open-world stealth game. It's full of toys and tricks to outwit enemies, then balloon them away to your secret ocean clubhouse. Yeah, the storytelling is a mess. Yeah, I miss David Hayter as Snake. Yeah, the tone was all over the place, but what a joy to master its many secrets and techniques, then use them to disable entire armies like the wackiest predator. Metal Gear Survive was robbed. If you don't get the hell out of here. MGS 5 being on this list just shows that we don't have any other MGS games properly on PC. I mean, 74 though. So maybe the others would be higher, but it's just, you know, you just can't. You can see the next one is Celeste. I've long suffered with anxiety, and much of my therapy was focused on learning to accept those parts of myself rather than panically pushing them away. Celeste, a tough as nails, arguable, 2D platformer about a girl named Madeline who endeavors to climb a magical mountain perfectly captures that sentiment. As Madeline climbs and overcomes platforming challenges that are hard, so hard, my goodness, my hands could barely keep up, she manages to accept those insecurities and embrace that scared side of herself, eventually teaming up with that part of her personality to climb the mountain together. It's an excellent platformer, sure, but one that also made room for me to reflect on my own therapy journey, which is something for which I'm very grateful. Yeah, I think this is a solid place for Celeste. I am generally someone who believes that Celeste is overhyped. It's a very, very good game, but it's not God's gift to mankind. which was one of the more annoying things about when Celeste had first released, like the first couple of years after its release. King of the boomer shooters. Kill the intruder. Dusk doesn't do anything by half measures, and its introduction is no exception. Awakening in a grungy basement with nothing but a pair of rusty sickles to your name, you're immediately attacked by 3 chainsaw-wielding psychopaths. From there, Dusk just keeps escalating further. Dilapidated farmhouses give way to decaying cities, haunted military bases, and floating cathedrals to Eldritchian deity. I think it's just Eldritch, isn't it? Who made this up? Isn't it just Eldritch? Yeah, Dusk goes places. Your journey is a roller coaster of blood, bullets, and nightmarish monsters. Weapons are snappy and pack a serious punch, an arsenal of powerful firearms that turn most of your adversaries into a pile of gooey gibs. In a sea of retro-inspired first-person shooters, Dusk is still the best of the bunch. Yeah, Eldritch or Lovecraftian. Oh, maybe they deliberately did it like Eldritch and then Lovecraftian. My next tabletop RPG character, folks, Eldritch Ian. Eldritchian is it's a funny word. I like it. That's why, like, the thing is, RPS has like a sense of humor in their writing, so I can't tell if it was on purpose or if someone said, I think if someone said, "Oh, what's Eldritch? Eldritchian?" Yeah, that's fun. I'm just gonna keep it. You know what I mean? I have weird feelings about that community, but Dusk is good. It makes sense as the representation of that whole revival on the list. I would agree, Mike. I think also, what is it called? Hyperviolence, I think, is the popular one. I want to say that's what it's called, but I might be wrong. But I think we've talked about it briefly before, Mike, but I agree. The Ultra Kill? Oh, yeah, and then Ultra Kill calls itself a hyperviolence. Yes, thank you. Thank you for reading my mind there, Orange. Like, somehow deciphering it, I appreciate it. But yeah, Ultra Kill, which describes itself as like hyper violent shooter. But yeah, the boomer shooter, like, veering slightly into like the haunted PS1 revival territory, does tend to run deep with total fucking bigots. And there's like a really strong through line of this almost like loophole kind of thing, this like loophole internet community thing, where like sometimes you just need to realize that people aren't joking. People are starting to not be joking when they're being mean to other people and when they're trolling and when they're like, haha, swastikas are so funny, and they're posting shit like that in your server. At a certain point, you need to stop, you know, what's the phrase? If it looks like a duck and it walks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, it's a duck. There's a huge contingency of this in the boomer shooter, the low poly community. There are a lot of huge fucking assholes in that community. That's like a very consistent underline through line thing, but because those are the sum of, because that's like a huge part of the community that is some of the biggest supporters, they just haven't been willing to extricate it. The cis het white dudes who make up these communities don't notice that stuff because they don't have to, and they're not at threat from it. Neo-Nazis just recycling their infiltration techniques they use for heavy metal. Literally, exactly. But yeah, Dusk is cool, Dusk is fun. But that is a warning to any marginalized person in this chat who is maybe thinking of getting into these kinds of games. They won't protect you in a lot of ways because they don't recognize that they need to. As wholesome and kind and tight-knit as indie game communities tend to be, being tight-knit doesn't mean unlearning your bigotry. Being tight-knit doesn't mean being a good person. It just means that you have interests in common and you will do what it takes to serve those interests. Let me move on. Dota? I guess that's fair. Dota 2 is an immense tangle of abilities, items, and interactions, so vast and ever-shifting that not even the best professional players can fully understand it. This sounds no fun at all, and yet there's something truly compelling about latching on to even a single loose thread of game knowledge, a favorite hero, an effective item build, and exploiting it all the way to victory. Every win in Dota 2 feels earned and is all the more satisfying for it. I tried a few different MOBAs after Dota, and they all felt like playing Conquerors after slaying an Eldritch World Eater. A bit surprised Dota's higher than CSGO. Does that mean we'll see League on this list? From a Brit? Absolutely fucking not. Especially because they said, I tried a few different MOBAs after Dota, and they all felt like playing Conquerors. Oh, Zero Escape. I did not even think about Zero Escape, but that makes a lot of sense. If you're into locked room murder mysteries, it simply doesn't get much better than Zero Escape the Nonary games, which combines the brilliant 999, 9 hour, don't make me read the whole thing, and Virtue's Last Reward into a deadly 1-2 punch of visual novel excellence. Both games have a similar setup. excuse me, 9 unwitting individuals get captured and stuck in a sinister death game as they fight for survival. But the on-running plot between them is one of the most Moorish and deviously constructed tales of time travel and alternate universes I've ever seen. It plays with the very foundations of how visual novels are designed and constructed, and each game's brilliant murder box puzzles ensure your brain gets as much of a workout as your text box clicking fingers, an essential part of any gaming diet. I keep hearing about Zero Escape. Zero Escape is great. No idea what it's about. I mean, there's Santa, first of all. Virtue's Last Reward, an amazing game. The third one also exists. What's the third one called? Orange? Well, I've always heard good things about Zero Escape, or at least these first two. And I know that they're like, I mean, it's like Saw, but there's time travel and all this weird shit, and I think some doppelgangers are in there. Oh, Zero Time Dilemma. Yeah, I remember hearing that one is kind of busted. Anyways, I digress. Oh, City Skylines 69. Nice. The best city builder on PC, Cities Skylines has remained the undefeated champ since its release in 2015. Although many have attempted to claim the crown for their own in the intervening years, except for, weirdly, the series that inspired Skylines in the first place, none have been able to create a city simulation as sophisticated as the one that powers Colossal Order's mega hit. Throw in a constant stream of game-changing DLC, and it's clear that Cities Skylines is here to stay. Long live the king. Gears of War 2? Do we have any real men in this chat? Gears of War 2? A third-person action shooter which perfectly strikes the bloody balance of bros, blockbuster, and being a bit of a laugh. An entire mission sees you chainsaw your way through a giant worm's innards. Another has you rocket through tunnels on the back of an alien squid. Don't let its gray and brown appearance fool you. The game's a reminder that these colors can make for a hearty stew filled with heart and bombast. Oh, that really caught me, because being a bit of a laugh is such a British phrase. They got me together. Maria! Gears, too. Hey, I love Gears. I don't think Gears is bad. But it's so, like, rrr. And I think the games are quite ugly and boring looking. I mean, they're from the era. Every protagonist was a white, but slightly slightly tan man with brown hair, buzz cut, a little bit of 5 o'clock shadow, and every game was like a washed out muddy brown. I expect Bulletstorm here, but not Gears and not 2. I wouldn't have expected Bulletstorm. I vaguely expect Modern Warfare 2, but I don't know if it'll be on here. That's not being sold anymore on PC, right? Only 5? I think so. OMG Gears? Haven't heard of that game in ages, right? Drake was originally supposed to be in 3, in Gears of War 3? That makes a weird amount of sense, actually. But then he blew them off, so they got Michael B. Jordan last second instead. Poor Michael B. Jordan. What the hell's he doing in Gears of War 3? I hope they gave him some good money for it. Danganronpa has a reputation as the much-memed franchise where eccentric high schoolers murder each other because a teddy bear tells them to. Still, while sensationalist anime games are hardly an underrepresented genre, Danganronpa Trigger Happy Havoc has emerged as a stone-cold classic of the visual novel medium. The series is rightfully well regarded as a dark comedy mystery thriller, but what really elevates it beyond mere silliness is the surprising core of emotional realism visible through all the hot pink bloodstains. This first game in particular contains some really affecting moments that stay with you much longer than you'd expect from the shocktastic cartoon premise. Yeah, in spirit, exactly. Sandwiching Gears 2 between 2 visual novels is a fun choice. Right, it's just the way the math worked out, but how funny. The Cycle Frontier. Now this is... I don't think this game is British, but this is a British choice. You know what I'm saying? Oh, how wrenching it is to write about the Cycle Frontier, one of my all-time favorite competitive shooters, shortly after hearing that it would be shut down for good this September. It had so much going for it. The best storms in gaming, by far my favorite maps in any extraction shooter or battle royale, strong gunplay, great lore, stressful standoffs, and tons of opportunities for outsmarting other players so you can run home with all their hard-earned gear. The cycle was killed by cheaters and then lack of interest or good content updates, but even post-mortem it remains the most enjoyable extraction shooter I've ever played. Oh, I never heard of her. There you go, Dex. Ooh, Undertale. A saucy slot for Undertale down at 65, a new entry. So it looks like they're not too keen on it. Undertale somehow manages to be both a heartwarming story of friendship and kindness while also a giant meme-filled poke at the cliches of traditional RPGs. Sure, there's a goat mom who makes your favorite pie, a skeleton who loves spaghetti, and a fish woman who's trying to kill you, but through all the jokes, Undertale also managed to turn one of the biggest RPG tropes on its tropes, I think it's supposed to be tropes, on its head by giving the player one simple but clever choice: attack or show mercy. It's an important decision that underpins the entire game and a reason why it's deserving of a place on this list. I mean, hey, for me, para mí, Undertale's a lot higher, but that's okay. I can kind of see it, especially because it has quite the legacy, and I think people are a little sick of hearing about it sometimes, which I can't really blame them for, honestly. Probably like the most dramatic and arguably funny thing about Undertale was like watching the kind of person who does just like mindlessly blast their way through an RPG, like watching them crack as late game the characters start to berate them for murdering people, and they like slowly realize like what they did and that the game was serious and what happened, and they just have to sit with that. Ooh, that was delicious. Excuse me, that fish isn't just a woman, she's also a cop and then a lesbian in that exact order. Before you're a lesbian, you'll always be a cop. One of the weirdest things about Undertale is that recently Moon Remix RPG, I say recently, 2.5 years ago, Moon Remix RPG got ported to PC and it was also available in English for the first time. And it was so weird to play Moon and be like, oh, and Switch, you're right, thank you Panda, and Switch. Like, I love Moon Remix RPG. I'm still working my way through it because I don't want to use a guide, but it's very obtuse, of course it is. And I'm just enjoying my time with it, like slowly but surely, and it's so clear, the line between Moon and Undertale. It's like fascinating. I would really recommend Moon, especially if you want something that's like a little more chill, something that's a little bit more evocative of like a Chulip, a Chibi Robo. Because the same team, or at least several of the same key devs worked on those games. It's like it's its own thing with its chill little vibe and kind of weird. It has that kind of thing where like the broken English only exacerbates the emotion of it somehow. Where like the little message you get every time you save the game, it takes you to a TV and it shows you like how many animals you've saved and how much love you've collected. Because instead of collecting XP, you collect love, which is abbreviated as LV, like level, which is also like, yeah, Undertale got it directly from Moon, obviously. Nowadays, obviously, I didn't know it at the time. And like, yeah, in broken English, the little guy on the TV says like, you've collected this much love. Go out there and collect the love from all the things. Collect a lot of it, please. And something about how simple and like not correct it is makes me more emotional than if it was correct. I don't know. A burn band? What the fuck? I would never have guessed Burn Band on here. With waggling arms and tippy-tappy feet, explore an alien city in this free first-person walking simulator. It's a joyous experience of feeling lost but not minding that at all, simply wandering around to see what you can see. Bustling nightclubs, back-alley diners, a child's trumpet recital, a greenhouse full of birdsong, an art gallery full of trolls, drunk people weeing in corners, the depths of the transit tunnels with hovercars whooshing overhead. Burn Band cleverly breaks its city into unconnected sections, so who knows what's through the next door. Oh, you know what? Do you think, for anyone who knows this, do you think this means that Diaries of a Spaceport Janitor will be on here? It used to be at number 20, now it dropped 44 positions to 64. Sheesh. Little Gator Game. Oh, cute. I was excited for this one. Ooh, I just saw the next one. Exciting. Little Gator Game hones in on two immaculate vibes. The first is the joy of running around like a kid in a play center. The second is the sad twinge of your big sibling no longer joining in because they're grown up and therefore boring. It's a simple yet sweet adventure, offering plenty of space to reflect on lost childhood as you run around the gorgeous island and try to unite Little Gator's many pals. Those characters ensure that there's always reason to laugh because they deliver consistently awkward and hilarious jokes in true Frog Detective style. Yeah, I love the demo for this. I think this was on my 2021 or 2022 list. And I was really excited for it, but I haven't played it yet. Glad to see it here. And then I saw Terraria, the beast that is Terraria. For a straight week, my friends and I spent 85 hours in 2D sandbox Terraria. One of them sat down in the morning and didn't move from their chair the entire day. They just had their laptop resting on their knees, mining, fishing, and looting with us for like 12 hours without ever feeling the need to eat or wee. Such was its hold over him. The game might give you freedom to build or explore however you want, but its triumph lies in how they structure if you need it, as you're led from one glorious reward chase to another. You won't tire, and I guarantee it won't either. No. The idea of a human being, a normal human being, running out of things to do in Terraria is borderline unfeasible. It's possible. It will happen eventually, technically, legally, but only because the game has been out for 12 fucking years. Otherwise, no. But I have many a fond memory of Terraria from when I bought it when I was 12 because I thought it looked like Minecraft, to playing across the United States and even across the continent, if I'm not mistaken, with a handful of friends. I was always just a fishing person, though. I just get the little fishing quests. I get the special weapons from the fishing because I just fish all the time. Y'all can go fight your cute little bosses. If there's a blood moon, I will take off the fish costume for my armor and I will defend you. But other than that, don't bother me. I'm fishing. Oh, hey, here's XCOM 2. We were talking about it earlier. A very respectable 61. Went up 21 positions. Used to be at 82. It was one thing to almost single-handedly revive the entire turn-based tactics genre with XCOM Enemy Unknown in 2012, but it was another to then go and do one better with XCOM 2 4 years later, and arguably again with its War of the Chosen expansion in 2018. The impact of Firaxis' XCOM games is still being felt today, of course, and for good reason. While Enemy Unknown still holds a dear place in my heart, XCOM 2 upped the stakes even further with its mix of pulse-racing squad battles against the now dominant, unstoppable force of its alien oppressors, and its deep grand strategy layer to further enhance your chances on the battlefield. It continues to be a stressful, Moorish mix of total despair and sheer exhilaration, and I wouldn't have it any other way. XCOM 2, I remember the when this came out, watching people play this was the most dramatic thing imaginable. Nothing more dramatic has ever happened in the history of mankind than an XCOM 2 round. Or not a round, but a game of it, a match. They're great stream games, yeah, it's true. But there was something especially saucy about watching Let's Plays, where it's like the episode, it's a finite amount of time, and I'm like, how are we gonna get out of this one, besties? Oh, Ikenfell! Ikenfell is a top-down turn-based RPG where you explore a magical school to find your missing sister. There's a lot of fighting, but it rarely falls into the trap of feeling grindy thanks to its light tactical combat. It's tough as nails at times, forcing you into claustrophobic areas and demanding strategic party placement, but that challenge makes every encounter feel satisfying, as does the combat music. You may be tempted to swap out members of your Final Fantasy-esque party, but Ikenfell's wonderfully written cast will make you want to spend time with them all. The wealth of LGBTQIA+ representation on offer here makes sure that Ikenfell is not only a kick-ass RPG, but also an essential piece of queer media that demands a place in your digital library. Shoutouts. Good for Ikenfell! 95% hit chance shot equals guaranteed miss, 99% chance to miss. That's the fuck... Do you guys ever think about how fucked up statistics are? Like, actually in real life? And how math shouldn't be real? Like, ever since learning that a lot of math in video games is actually faked, I don't know what it did to my brain, but it did something to it. Woo! What reminds me of the Finch? Oh, I saw what was next. Actually, fuck this positioning. Yeah, I'm gonna kill you. This is one of my favorite games ever, just to be totally clear. What Remains of Edith Finch is one of my favorite games ever. I cry every fucking time. I listen to the song The House from the What Remains of Edith Finch soundtrack, and tears just percolate into my eyeballs. But I saw what game they put above this, and now it's hands. If you're a fan of experimental storytelling and can take an emotional gut punch or 10, What Remains of Edith Finch should be next on your to-play list. This first-person adventure tells the strange tales of the now-deceased Finch family, and as its last living member, Edith has returned to the family household to uncover the hidden histories of how each of her relatives met their unfortunate end. Through careful art direction, What Remains of Edith Finch is a powerhouse of storytelling, and there's been nothing quite like it since. I have a lot of positive thoughts about What Remains of Edith Finch. All of them are wrapped in depression and family trauma. What Remains of Edith Finch is another one where I think, like, I have a lot of positive thoughts that I could write something about, but I've just never gotten around to it because it's so hard to articulate, and it's impossible to articulate without spoilers. That's the problem. Yet another game that I'm like, I should play it sometime at this point. There are too many video games, but Lovik, you can knock this out in 2.5 to 3 hours, I promise you. If you're really taking your time, 3.5. Depression, generational trauma, I'm sold. Yeah, it's like the main thing about What Remains of Edith Finch, I played this when I was like 18 or 19, And you're just not as emotionally developed as that age, certainly not as much as I am now, 4 or 5 years later. And it's like, I really liked What Remains of Edith Finch when it came out, but then like playing it again when I was a little bit older, and like even just like letting the story absorb made it mean a lot more. Because I think the one thing, if you don't like walking sims, whatever, if the story is too sad for you, whatever, if you think some things are sad for the sake of being sad, whatever. But I think the one thing that like keeps people from really enjoying the game is not getting it, which feels so unfair to say, but it's like it presents itself and people describe it as a pretty straightforward story. And like, yes, it is, but there's a lot of extra stuff on where you have to keep in mind that these are all very human characters. Not everyone is a reliable narrator. In fact, pretty much everyone is an unreliable narrator because they're all human beings. And I think that's where people don't get it. The game, not every single thing in the game is meant to be taken literally. And I think the more fantastical sections of the game are supposed to lead you to believe that. But I was surprised after I had played this game, thinking back on the reviews I had seen and reading more reviews, how many people like had not made that critical connection. And that in a sense it's a story game. The story is very straightforward, but there's also extraneous things about the story that it doesn't hold your hand for. So yeah, I would say if you play this game, keep that in mind. There are no reliable narrators in the entire story. They're all humans. And yeah, the game is not as fantastical as it presents itself, I guess. It is, at the end of the day, a story about grief. And that is why I like it so much. It's very depressing, though. At least from my perspective. Now, after my effusive praise of What Remains of Edith Finch, a game that's very important to me, very emotionally well done, excellent storytelling, I did see what game is next. And I need to cause someone physical harm to be okay. 'Cause I know you're fucking lying. Like, I'm a lesbian. Hold the applause. Dramatic pause. So Life is Strange is important to me in a lot of ways. In the like, this game started coming out when I was 15 going on 16. I turned 16 while the game was coming out. So like, it's an important game to me in that sense. I really liked it while it was coming out. Being a gay person on tumblr.com while Life is Strange was actively releasing episodically is like nothing else. I will cherish that shit forever because it was such a specific, ludicrous energy that I miss sometimes. Honestly, it was really, really fun. Like the theory crafting and the being in a little kind of fandom stuff, that was all great. Life is Strange is not a good game. It doesn't play well. The dialogue is fucking awful. It's beautiful. It has some really effective moments. It doesn't work as a complete story end to end. Shockingly, maybe not shockingly, but it was really hurt by its episodic structure. I think its episodic structure made it worse because there are a lot of threads that are started and then just dropped. I think it's aged extremely poorly. None the least of which because of its dialogue, but also because of the legacy of the other Life is Strange games and the other games that Donut has made, I think have all made Life is Strange retrospectively much worse. But let me read it. It's hard to definitively pick out the best Life is Strange game. This series of choice-based adventures starring ordinary American teenagers who develop weird superpowers always delivers a great story. Each game can be enjoyed standalone too, but it's definitely a case where starting from the beginning helps you to get the most out of it. Original protagonist Max's time rewind has yet to be beaten for the most entertaining power in the series. Furthermore, her ability makes Life is Strange one of the few narrative adventure games to really justify the use of branching storylines by allowing you to explore alternative outcomes without breaking the fiction. Hey Lotus, remember how they have to take your powers away at random times because they break the flow of the story? I do. I don't super mind that just because it's kind of it's necessary to keep it within scope. But Jesus. Go fuck yourself. I have fond memories of the Let's Play I watched of it, but that was a long time ago. Yeah. Squeenix and episodic gaming. I love the idea of episodic games, but in practice, it's never perfect. Yeah, I mean, the episodic game has been replaced more or less, I think, and correctly so, by early access. And I think that works a little bit better because the stress of an episodic game is that each episode has to be roughly equal. Or like it's expected to. You certainly, like, you can't have an episode with less content than the previous one unless you're really going for, you know, not an intermission, but, you know, like the smaller one. Unless you're really going for that. Like, you can't, if your first episode has 3 hours worth of story, you can't have the next one be an hour and a half. You can't do that. And so that just adds even more stress to it. Whereas I feel like an early access schedule kind of gives you the benefits of episodic without having to deal with episodic. If you do an episodic game, you got to do it like Alan Wake and have them all released at once. Right. It's part of Alan Wake's like goofy structure, which I still don't really think works, but it's fun. The one good example of episodic storytelling is Life is Strange 2 for me, and that's mostly because episodes came out 1 to 3 months between each other, but in-game time 1 to 3 months passed too. Yeah, that's fun. Like, I think, I don't know, the episodic thing of Life is Strange is tough. It feels like the episodes were being made as the game was coming out, which is, I think, the tough part. So it feels like they were reacting to what people were responding positively and negatively to, at least in some respects, and I think that that's when it's bad. But if you're trying to do an actual thing with the episodes, like I don't know as much about Life is Strange 2, but presuming all the episodes were finished ahead of time, like, that's a cool way to pass the time. Or, like, just to make sure that the player paces themselves, I think that's a fun idea. The amount of content that was scrapped from episode 5, girl, and episode 5 was still a fucking shit show. Like Life is Strange is almost a perfect triangle, where you start in episode 1 and you're like, oh, this is pretty promising. Episode 2, it's kind of boring, but it's getting pretty spicy. Episode 3 is when you're like, what the fuck? Whoa, this is getting wild. Episode 4, it has a couple good scenes, but overall it's kind of a mess. And then episode 5 just sucks. It's awful. The idea of consuming a game story week to week like a TV show is fun, but that amount of content is a struggle. Right. Like, if there was just some way to just have the whole thing finished and then just release it episodically because you feel like it, I don't think it'd be a popular decision, especially to the average gamer, but God, it would be fun. It goes up its own butthole a few times story-wise. Yeah, I agree. Gosh, I watched a video essay about it like a month or two ago, and the way that the person phrased it was really interesting, which they kind of came to the conclusion where, like, both endings of the game are good and interesting, but not in the same story. Like, one of them, saving the B-A-Y Bay, is interesting if you're going for the story that is like a brutal coming of age about how life isn't fucking fair and you shouldn't be messing with the fabric of reality and you have to live with your choices. It makes sense for that story. And then the Chloe ending, the Save the B-A-E ending, makes sense for ostensibly what Life is Strange actually is, which is a character-driven story about the relationship between two girls. So, like, both endings are good, but not in the same story, and there's a reason that the Chloe ending is, like, borderline unanimously chosen. It's like 70+%, like, it's a landslide, and it's because that's the part of the story that's the most successful and the part that people respond to more positively. I feel like because it's so messy, that makes it more interesting to me, and watching Let's Plays with different choices, I think that's fair. But it's like, it's the messiness never goes away, and especially when it comes to like the bad teenager dialogue isn't just bad, it also, like, it cracks the glass, and then through the glass I can see the grown adult man writing the entire story, and I'm like, oh yeah, it's like Euphoria. I used to joke that the only reason Euphoria ever got made is because people like Life is Strange. And you know what, I don't think I'm completely wrong. I don't think I'm all the way wrong. Wait, I'm gonna shout out Danny again, because Danny has a Let's Play of Life is Strange. We kind of made her do it because I have it on my Steam account and we have connected accounts, and she's never played it. Danny's also a lesbian, so we were like, Danny, you have to fucking play Life is Strange. And that watching Danny play Life is Strange has been a joy. I don't think the VODs are still up, but they should be on her YouTube channel, which I could just grab it really quick and link it. But yeah, that shit got me together. It was a good old time. Let me just link it in here. Pretty sure she has the VODs up. I do feel a bit sad for Don't because I feel people are still holding Life is Strange over them in some ways, and it being the most popular game, I think. Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that, like, for me, like, the biggest misstep that Don't has ever made, and in my opinion was also, like, an unforced error, is making Before the Storm. I have no fucking idea why they made Before the Storm. And it was outsourced, too, so they didn't even make it. They, you know, had it made for them. And I think it was a horrible idea. A horrible idea. Not only because it cements you as the Life is Strange people, but also because, like, the biggest criticisms of Life is Strange, for the most part, are the fridge the lesbian of it all. And, like, the seemingly, like, if you do take Life is Strange as a character-focused, relationship-centered story, then it really feels like it's making lesbians and teenage girls suffer for no reason. And then you make Before the Storm, which is teenage girls, lesbians suffering the video game. Look at how lovely this relationship was, knowing that Chloe digs up Rachel Amber's dead body in a junkyard. I simply wouldn't have done that. I simply wouldn't have done it. Let's move on. Oh, the Norwood Suite. Okay, so I was almost right, but I was also wrong. I thought it would be, Betrayal at Club Low. Ending of Before the Storm is so weird knowing the context of Life is Strange 1. Yeah, it's just so... It's a whole mess. We could talk about Life is Strange forever. Now we still have a lot to talk about. Oh, wait, but that reminds me. Great video essay. Oh, fuck. What is their channel called? I think it's just... There's something that y'all would probably like. I really liked it. It's quite a long video essay. It's by Game Assist. That's it. I'm always like, game something. They put out a video essay called Everything is Political, Institutional Racism in Life is Strange 2. And I think it's a really, really good look at Life is Strange 2 and the way that, like, sometimes Don't is completely spot on in the ways that they depict racism, but other times it feels like, you know, exploitative, like, what's the word? Like voyeuristic, or they're just completely fucking wrong. They just don't get it. It's a long one, but it's really, really well done. I think it's a pretty good overall dissection of Life is Strange 2. I really like it. They are very good writers, very good essayists over at Game Assist, so I'd recommend them, and I recommend that video specifically. They have another one on Life is Strange 1, but I haven't watched it yet, so I can't tell you anything about that. Anyways, go undercover at a surreal hotel converted from the mansion of a legendary musician in this first-person adventure game. I struggled to pick a single game from the Off-Peak City series, each filling out another fascinating few square meters of this magical and unknowable place with new surreal sights, weird conspiracy, little human stories, great music, and pizza. Tomorrow I might name another, but today, yes, I adore this hotel where transitory guests collide with secrets coursing through the walls. What a place, what a mood! But do check out the whole series. Fair. I gotta play these guys. I haven't. They seem cool. Hey, there's Transistor. Hades is rightfully their flagship game, but 2014's Transistor is Supergiant Games at their absolute, unassailable best, telling an intimate, soulful story within a stunning, complex, exquisitely fucked up virtual reality. Add to this some marvelous writing, the best soundtrack in video games, T, and Gen Z's peerless visual design, and you fast run out of superlatives with which to describe this wonderful isometric RPG. And I haven't even spoken about the brain-melting combat system, which allows you to layer weapon upon weapon in bizarre ways to hundreds of different attack types. Just play Transistor and cry with me when it's over. For me, Transistor is my favorite of Supergiant's games by a long shot. I think it also does not maybe receive as much criticism as it should. I think it's very, what's the word? Straight? I was trying to think of a more academic term, because gender essentialism isn't the word. Straight centric game. It definitely has a little bit, like, Sable is a very negative lesbian stereotype. There's some bad gay stereotypes in the game. It relies entirely on heterosexuality, but it's still my fucking favorite. For me, it's not the number one soundtrack. For me, number one soundtrack is Tetris Effect, but Transistor is way, way, way up there. It's such a good OST. Like, unbelievably good. I think about paper boats every day of my life. That's not true, but often. Fortnite! It is here! Plot twist, we'll see Hades too. Yeah, I imagine. I didn't think Fortnite would be here. Previous position 25, down 30 places. A contentious pick perhaps, but Fortnite remains popular for a reason. Yes, your nephew probably keeps asking you to buy him V-Bucks for Christmas because there's a cool new Star Wars skin, but look past the promotional tie-ins and you'll find an exceptional multiplayer shooter packed full of breathless invention. Live service games are tricky beasts, but few are accessible or generous as Fortnite. For the low price of nothing, you can experience everything this Battle Royale has to offer, including its quickly growing catalog of player-created experiences. Its recent upgrade to Unreal Engine 5 has made it one of the best-looking games going, too. But yeah, I like Fortnite. That's the thing. Fortnite might be evil, and it might have brainwashed the children, but it's fun. Doom 2! A foundational pillar of my PC gaming youth, Doom 2 remains an absolute belter. You know it, I know it, so let's not waste time pretending otherwise. It's the details that make this my favorite Doom. I will continue to love and cherish the mighty elephant kick of its super shotgun until my dying breath, and getting the plasma gun in BFG for the first time is still an absolute thrill on every playthrough. I still quake at the sound of those goddamn arachnotrons, but man alive if it isn't some sweet vengeance to eventually turn their power against them with your own spot of plasma pelting. id's more recent pair of Doom games are equally brilliant in their own way as well, but it's the sound, the look, the feel of Doom 2 that cements it as my personal all-timer. Oh, Hunt Showdown! Max used to love this game. Oh, I saw the next one! Hunt Showdown is a brooding extraction shooter set in a dark fantasy 1890s Louisiana infested with horrible creatures. Recruit a hunter, kit them out, and then kill one of the boss creatures and extract with the bounty before other players kill you and rob your corpse of all its value. It's an amazingly well-balanced shooter. You can enter with just a basic Winfield rifle and kill even the most seasoned veteran with a well-placed headshot. But the crowning achievement is the audio design, which is so far beyond any other shooter that it's hard to go back to anything else afterwards. I hear good things about Hunt Showdown. People seem to really enjoy it. It's nice to have an extraction shooter that's not fucking Escape from Tarkov, is a lot of my understanding too. Here the female characters are pretty cool. You know, it doesn't pigeonhole them or anything. So yeah, go for the Hunt Showdown, folks. Tunic! Sure, the Zelda-themed stuffing inside Tunic's adorable fox hero is certainly one reason why it's instantly catapulted itself into my personal GOAT list, but the cleverness of Tunic goes so much deeper than that. As well as being a cracking isometric action game in its own right, the artful construction of its mysteries and puzzles keeps players guessing about the truth of your role here on this enigmatic island until right at the very end, and I absolutely love that about it. It's one of the few games in recent years that makes every synapse in my brain light up as I try and pull all its threads together, and that is the greatest feeling I can ever hope for when sitting down to play something. Yeah, I was waiting years for Tunic. Finally came out, very excited. Played a bit of it on stream. I still really like it, but I haven't finished it yet. Soundtrack, everything. Level design, world design, everything. Visuals, everything. I haven't finished it because I put it down for a while, and now I know I'm going to have to relearn the combat. I think I've said this before, but the combat to me is like not... It's not the worst part because it's bad. It's the worst part because it's the thing I care the least about in Tunic. So part of me is like, in lieu of relearning the combat to finish the game, I'm kind of considering just turning on the invincibility mode and just walking around. Because I like it more as an exploration game than any of the combat. So I just wonder sometimes in the back of my mind, like, but the fighting is fun, so I kind of want to do the fight. Like, I don't know. Let's move on, though. Oh, Viscera, clean up the tail. I used to watch videos of this all the time, but I've never played it. This is the ASMR game, the not horror, secretly horror ASMR game. Who cleans up after FPS heroes save the day? You. Pull on your rubber gloves to mop up blood, gather casings, spot weld bullet holes, incinerate gibs, and more. It has a very pleasant meditative quality. And in the burgeoning genre of cleaning games, Viscera Clean Up Detail stands out with dynamic messes letting you make things worse. If you're not careful, you can track blood around, spill buckets, start fires, and worse. I've never felt more like an exasperated parent than leaving to an empty bin and returning to find a co-op partner surrounded by fresh, mucky chaos. Viscera Clean Up Detail walks so Power Wash Sim could run 100%. Absolutely. I remember when this came out, because the thing is, this is post Five Nights at Freddy's. Viscera Cleanup Detail exists in a post Five Nights at Freddy's world, so people were scared that it would secretly actually be a horror game, and that like something would eventually pop out, and it's like, no. It's just a cleaning game. Disco Elysium at 50. Oh, that's right. I saw this spoiler on accident when I was setting up the tabs. I was surprised to see Disco this low. Not that I'm like, I haven't played Disco because it doesn't interest me personally. It's cool if people like it. I'm happy for them. and that it kind of changed the landscape for a little bit, inspired lots of people. But that's why I was surprised to see it at 50. I was going to say it used to be really high. It used to be at 18, dropped 32 places. Even that's lower than most people consider it. A lot of people consider it a top 5 PC game. But let's see. Disco Elysium feels like a booze-soaked fever dream, and since finishing it, I've never quite managed to shake off the thumping RPG hangover it gave me. It's an incredibly stylish and dialogue-heavy game that's part detective murder mystery, part psychodrama. A grisly murder lies at the heart of it, but the world that spins around that axis is a tangled web of strange characters, shady politics, and a city on the edge of collapse. And it's all told through a wonderful vomit of verbiage. An incredible detective RPG that will forever occupy your mind after finishing it. It's been wild at the time that this game came out of nowhere, and a lot of people were putting it on their best of decade list. I know, like immediately. Like for me, para mí, I think the phrase instant classic is an oxymoron and it shouldn't exist. If a game is immediately great, sure, totally, I get it. If you're saying immediately the game is like at the top of your list, sure, totally great. But instant classic, instantly best of the decade, like, let's give it a minute. Rocket League, good for Rocket League. Rocket League is still, in my opinion, the best competitive game ever made. It's football with cars, so it's incredibly easy to understand as both a player and a spectator. It's ridiculously fun and chaotic even when you're just starting out and learning how to do basic flips and blocks and aerials. And 1,000 hours later, it's just as fun and chaotic, but from your new camping spot on the mountainous skill curve. You're just beginning to appreciate the true depth of this frenetic, near-perfect physics-em-up. Not a physics em up, I swear to God. To this day, it's the game I became best at, and I still play it regularly, close to a decade later. It's genuinely flawless. Gosh, that game came out in 2015? Wow. Rocket League, the best soccer game. Oh, yes. And a great OST, too. It's Monster Cat collab I fucking love. Oh, Titanfall 2. I should have guessed Titanfall 2 would be on here. Personally, I think Titanfall 2 is a little overrated. Across the board. Oops. I just don't think this is... like, it feels good. I just don't think it's as special of an FPS as people make it out to be. 48th? I suppose I shouldn't be surprised. Titanfall 2 never got the attention and frankly love that it deserved. Some of the crispest, sharpest shooting in modern FPSs, fluid switching between speedy wall-running man fights and weighty mech battles, even a creative and perfectly paced single-player campaign, and all anybody could say about it was, oh yeah, there's a new Battlefield coming out next week too. History has been kinder to Titanfall 2 than those first few months were, but in a just world it would have had classic status from the start, and we might have Titanfall 3. TF2, top 10 best robots in gaming. That's true. Their robots are good, their robots are cute. It's like fun, but this thing, like this sentiment is, I would say, the popular sentiment of it, where everyone is clamoring that it's like a cult classic and it's one of the best and most fluid FPSs ever made, and I just don't agree. I think it's good. It's good. It's a 7 out of 10. Age of Empires 2. Age of Empires 2 Definitive Edition is a brutally fast and challenging RTS that demands your constant attention as players fight over resources and through each other's empires to be the last one standing. I binged it earlier this year and it broke me. Never before have I clicked so hard, so fast on so many things. I had a Google Doc up on my second monitor throughout every match with timestamp lists of actions to take in order to win on each difficulty. It hooked me and I had to stop playing lest it consume me entirely. Fiendishly replayable, endlessly entertaining. Maybe I should re-download it to play another match. Solid entry on best button prompts. Oh no. Which one specifically? This probably means we won't see Age of Mythology on the list. Oh yeah. Well, we do have 40. I feel like 46 is a lot of places. I wonder if we'll see like a black and white or something. Wouldn't that be something? If we saw black and white on here? Let's see. Jazztronauts. I don't know this game. I don't think I do. Requires Gmod. Hop in an interdimensional bus to ram raid random Steam Workshop levels and steal everything in them for your criminal cat bosses, not only breaking the fourth wall but yoinking it too. This mod for Gary's Mod is a silly celebration of how video games are built from magic tricks and how creative and weird their players are. Round up some pals and laugh yourself silly as you go on a crime spree across Harry Potter role-playing maps, Counter-Strike levels, recreations of people's childhood homes, and whatever the hell else is on the workshop. That sounds cool. That sounds fascinating. Let me go steal that real quick. Or at least bookmark it, jeez. That's wild. We have mods in here too? I wasn't expecting mods in here at all. I'm gonna have to check that one out. Yeah. Oh, here, let me put the link for you guys in the chat so you can go straight to it easier. There you go. Yeah, that's fascinating to me. Hey, if there are Gmod mods in here, where the fuck is Prop Hunt? Where the fuck is Trouble in Terrorist Town? Press LB to time travel in TF2. Oh. I apparently last played Gary's mod in 2018, more recent than I thought. Mine's probably 2021, and I think it was to play Prop Hunt. I'm simple. Dragon Age 2, I see. If Ambrose is napping, this might just wake Bun up. A while back, when Twitter was still functional, I saw a tweet going around that said, quote tweet this with your most controversial Dragon Age opinion. And so many people replied with, I actually really like Dragon Age 2, that it became instantly clear to me that we actually all just like Dragon Age 2. Of the 3 current entries into BioWare's big epic fantasy RPG, with elves, cowmen, a dog, DA2 is trying the most different things, and I think it's all the better for it. You're stuck in one city for the entire game, but the story spans decades, so you see the social and political situation change. That's a very cool choice. It also leans into the absurdity of fantasy by having a sarcastic asshole dialogue choice that's referred to as Purple Hawk among the fandom, changes up the relationship system by introducing what is essentially a frenemy end of the scale, and lightens up the combat without making it actually easy. It's actually really bloody good when you think about it. Surprises DA2 and not Origins. It's between those two, right? Is like my understanding of how fans think of Dragon Age series. As much as people like Inquisition, it has like enough negatives that people usually don't put it on there. Gmod is all about the skibbity dibbity toilet these days. God, you're right. The TikTok series. Think you've never played Gmod? Well, wait for a sale, because that shit is usually on sale for like $1.50. So you'll be well taken care of. Or it might even be free now. I don't think it is, but it could be. But yeah, I've heard many a tale of DA2 from Ambrose, one of my good friends who's a moderator in here. He really loves DA2. So, makes sense to me. Subnautica. For me, para me, previous position 83. Holy fucking shit. For me, Subnautica is easily top 20. I think it's one of the best games ever made. So even with all the jank, even with all the popping that pissed me the fuck off during my playthrough, even though you kind of should have a map, like an actual map in the game, and you don't, I love Subnautica. Stranded on an alien planet with a vast blue sea, your only option is to dive into its depths and turn those fish and coral into oxygen tanks and home pods. Let it be known the game is as much about the wonder of discovery as it is a full-blown horror experience. Your first descent into the inky black depths is genuinely terrifying and thrilling in equal measure. What will your beam of light reveal? What new materials might you discover? What was that noise? I love Subnautica. And I have especially fond memories because the first time I played Subnautica was when I was a baby streamer. I think this must have been in 2019. So like my first proper year of streaming when I'm like 20. And I still have like a compilation, I think, on YouTube of me playing Subnautica with my old busted ass mic and my old busted ass camera and everything. I got a little ways in and it was great, but I can't do underwater stuff. Very fair. For thalassophobia reasons or for motion sickness reasons. Or both. But I love underwater stuff. I love water stuff in general. I think that's a consistent thing people might know about me. If I see fishing, if I see sailing, if I see swimming, I am in there. I'm from a coastal city. The other side of my family, my dad's side of the family is from Boston. I love to fucking swim. I love a sea critter. I'm reading a book about moss, for God's sake. You know? I was always gonna like it, I think. I'm glad it's gotten a little bit more stable. The former, the thalassophobia. Not to the degree I would call it a phobia, but enough to put me off. Yeah, I think that that's pretty fair. Because it is very scary, and often deliberately scary. I think some parts of it are, like, not as intentionally scary as others, but, like, when you have the Reaper Leviathans clinging on to the front of the fucking sea moth, it's like, yeah, it's on purpose. An open world action RPG which ends suddenly if you eat a mackerel, Nier Automata is platinum at their absolute best. The combat is slick as heck, and you'll struggle to predict what might happen next at practically every turn. You'll be popped in bullet hell boss battles with banging music that swells as angry orbs fill your screen. Then all of a sudden you'll engage in some top-down puzzler, then a 2D platformer. Oh, and the story? Yeah, it's anime bonkers and surprisingly philosophical, best unraveled over multiple playthroughs which, you guessed it, offer plenty of surprises too. Nier Automata, very critically acclaimed. I have not played it because, similar to the fighting games of my youth, the overt sexualization of the female character that is seemingly divorced from any story or meaning makes me uncomfortable. Hey. I was gonna say literally only unravelable through multiple playthroughs. A YouTuber who I like cannot be tamed, Pam it cannot be tamed. She said that she just like would never play Nier Automata. It was one of her videos that was like, you know, highly rated games that I don't like or whatever. Because she played through Nier Automata once, and she knew that you had to do multiple playthroughs in order to like get more of the story, but she hated her first playthrough so much that she just didn't go back. Which I think is so funny and so fucking real of her, because I'm like that too. Like, if I get 3 hours into a game and you haven't completely hooked me, then fuck off. They need a mod for the PC version that turns 2B and 9S into Spy from TF2. Blue and red. I played the main endings, but I think it's far more praised than it should be. That's fair. I'm glad I'm not the only one who's bugged by the sexualization, like it's so unnecessary. It's anime, it's Japan, so it's okay. I'm exaggerating, obviously, but like, there is a lot of like, it's like a slap on the wrist. Like the most overt negative thing you'll get is a slap on the wrist, basically, that's like, oh, he's just some old Japanese pervert, whatever, that's just how it is. If you don't like it, then don't play Japanese games. And it's like, okay, I won't. I guess literally the if you self-destruct you don't have a skirt, right? The achievement for the upskirting. Part of the problem. Some of the recommendations from the fandom got me irked. Yeah, I think the Nier / Drakengard fandom is annoying. Overall, pretty annoying. Like, not entirely going back to what I said about Rule of Rose, but similarly, just completely and totally unwilling to do any level of critique whatsoever. I liked it. It meant something to me. It made me cry. Therefore, it's good. Every part of it is good. Shut your fucking mouth. Like, you know. And I think generally if something is like an anime game, which is borderline like, what does that mean? But, you know, the trappings of an anime game where like it is a Japanese made game and it has like the anime staples of like big goofy weapons, extravagant costumes, strange hair colors. I think when they have those kind of markings, then people are even less willing to critique stuff like Final Fantasy XIV Online. I feel like it's probably a decent stream game because a third of the praise I hear is from people who haven't even played it. Oh, really? Oh, I guess that does make sense. I think part of it is I've heard that the game can get quite difficult. And for me, I struggle with bullet hells because of my like vision problems, because there'll be two big glowing bullets and they're supposed to be high vis or whatever, but because of my vision issues they kind of turn into one thing, and so it's hard for me to see the gaps that you're supposed to maneuver through in a bullet hell. But I've also heard it gets difficult, like my personal failings aside, so maybe that's part of it too. And then I think for the first like couple of years of its life, it was like people knew that there were like secret endings, but a lot of people played it once and were like, well, this is fucking dog shit. So then it became this thing of like, yeah, you have to play 6 hours of the game for it to get good, and you'll even get an ending in between there. And so I think it took a while for it to start kicking up, and that's why a lot of it is from streaming and video people. So I'm good out here. It's cute that, I will say though, yes, the sexualization makes me uncomfortable, but the fashion in the games is pretty. Like, they're well-designed outfits. I think they're beautiful clothes. It's cool that they're in 14 now, and people can get the cute little outfits. But other than that, I move on. Hypnospace Outlaw, I think we were talking about that yesterday. It's hard to believe it these days, but there was a time when the internet was dripping with personality. Hypnospace Outlaw captures the essence of the World Wide Web circa 1999, providing you with hundreds of web pages to explore created by both users and brands alike. As an enforcer for tech company MerchantSoft, it's your job to hunt down misdemeanors in Hypnospace, an alternate reality web browser users access while they sleep. Hypnospace may be quirky and surreal, but it's also surprisingly empathetic, stuffed full of stories about real people looking to belong in an exciting new frontier for humanity. It's a time capsule of an era that never existed, yet one that still feels tangibly real. Undertale Nier being the first game for some people that just widens their understanding of what a game can be and can make, and then the fandom will not shut up about it to anyone. Yeah, I think so too. The further dimension of like Undertale kind of broadly targets like people who like RPGs or arguably retro RPGs, which is a huge demographic that I would say generally has a lot of diversity. Nier Automata targets otakus who have a much more narrow, I think, view and goal, and that is why they tend to be so fucking obnoxious. Oh, satisfactory and Factorio. Okay, well, what was it that we said before? The factory must grow, to the detriment of the alien landscape, its inhabitants, and your free time. Factorio is the founder and best of a glorious strategy subgenre called the Factory Sim. It's a masterpiece of engineering that challenges you to incrementally build similar masterpieces, kilometers in length and width, that churn out thousands of circuit boards and pipes and alloys with the eventual aim of building a rocket and leaving the planet. By which point you're already too invested in your mega factory to abandon it, so you continue for another 200 hours while the ever-growing hordes of biters burrow their way through your walls as recompense for polluting their world. Y'all love to colonize. We're moving on. Oh, Saturnalia. This is a very new game. Came out like late 2022. Readers will know I went absolutely off my gourd when this horrible little folk horror game released on the Epic Game Store last year. It's coming to Steam later in 2023 with a new first-person mode that I will absolutely be too scared to play. Set in an isolated Sardinian mining town in the 80s, Saturnalia puts you in the shoes of three outsiders trying to escape Gravois, on the night of its regular folk horror murder festival. Yo, Saturnalia? But with the cannibalistic masked creature that follows you through the unlit streets of a maze-like town. Well, if it's a creature, how is it a cannibal? Anyways, only one character has a map, by the way, and it's not in the HUD because barely anything is. To escape and to uncover the web of secrets holding the town together, you'll have to scuttle around the fabulously neon-lit alleyways and hope the creature doesn't start to follow you. If we have Factorio here, we need at least 2 Zachtronic games, right, to recompense. It's all spun off from the Minecraft community. Factorio? Oh, yes. I know those wild-ass fucking Minecraft mods. I've never played with them myself because I didn't feel the need to teach myself how to create rocket fuel out of seeds, like some people do. I'm good. But yeah, I heard, generally I heard a lot of people like Saturnalia, but they didn't like, the actual playing of it, like the movement, and the camera and stuff, like, felt bad and janky. And there's some, like, level design, logistical problems with it. But that, like, the vibes are so good that you'll just have to get over it. So, I'm like, maybe I should get in that. Minecraft mods will set me for life. That's the thing. And that's part of why kids like it so much. What we were talking about earlier. Like, if you can't afford a lot of games, Minecraft is, what, $14.99? And you can have any video game in it now? And now Fortnite's free and you can do the same fucking thing? There's a reason, you know. Oh, Firewatch. My old love. Few games convey longing quite as effectively as Firewatch. A longing for solitude, for companionship, for answers, for peace. The mysteries that linger between the trees aren't nearly as important as what protagonist Henry left behind when taking on the job as a fire lookout in the Shoshone National Forest. Accompanying him is as much a journey of self-discovery as anything else. Then there's Delilah, Henry's supervisor who only ever communicates with him via radio. Their relationship is complicated, beautiful, and raw. 2 lost souls hiding in the wilderness in the hope life cannot find them among nature's untamed density. Firewatch is very special indeed. Come on, Firewatch. The night in the woods of spending a night in the woods. Oh yeah, we still haven't seen Night in the Woods. But that's a very funny way to put it, Panda. Yeah, I mean, I really love Firewatch. And I remember, this is another thing kind of in the same vein as what I was saying about Life is Strange, is I was so actively online at this time that I remember actively following... Gosh, what is that channel's name? I remember, like, Firewatch theories and, like, what's the real story? Like, what's the... You know, like, there's clearly... Something about this seems like a horror game, and there are times where you're playing Firewatch where, like, creepy shit will happen, and you don't really know why, and it's like, what is going on? I remember, like, I can't recite this video from memory, but I've watched it dozens of times. This video by Geek Remix, which is like Delilah's Dark Secret, and they're going over Dex, you and me. It's almost like we're both gay people born within a year of each other or something. Ooh, I can't stand us. Ooh, I can't stand us. Literally exactly what I was gonna say. I remember their Life is Strange theory crafting and watching that and having a good time, but none of it seemed all that viable. But that fucking video, Delilah's Dark Secret about Firewatch by Geek Remix, And like they go into everything, and then they had their other Firewatch videos that was like, you can hear footsteps in this area, and I'm like, oh my god, I wasn't freaked out for no reason. There really are fucking footsteps there. And I just live. I live. OMG, we're bad. Let's be bad. The paranoia it induces is so well done. It is. It really is. The game intentionally throws like 5 potential theories of the character at you of what might be going on in the last third. I know. And then just like the drama, the conflama, just stumbling upon stuff in a way that feels organic but obviously isn't. Love it. Shout outs to Firewatch. Mwah. A new entry. Oh, I saw Camposanto and then I got sad because they're kind of dead. They're technically not dead, but they're like, you know when anglerfish have sex and then the male gets turned into like a sack on the female and he doesn't live anymore? That's what happened to Camposanto. Valve is the anglerfish. BioWare. Kind of, but BioWare technically is still supposed to be working on Dragon Age. Whereas now, Camposanto, I mean, they made Half-Life Alyx, but before they got absorbed by Valve, they had announced In the Valley of the Gods. That game's never coming out. It's not happening. It's not fucking happening. And I'm so sad because I wanted it. Alright. Oh, Slay the Spire. Yeah. Oops. Spoilers. Next one is kind of weird. I wouldn't have guessed that. Climb and fight through a towering city as one of 4 fantasy weirdos in this offbeat deck-building dungeon crawler. Pick your path, encounter strange people, fight stranger monsters, and build your run by grabbing cards and items. Slay the Spire is largely happy to let you become overpowered, holding potential combinations that might let you cast dozens of spells in a turn or near one-hit bosses. That's always fun. But what most keeps me coming back after all these years and after the many games Slay the Spire inspired is the satisfaction of juicy maths. Oh, slay! 2030, Valley of God releases, I will be vindicated. God, imagine. Yeah, Project Zomboid I wasn't really expecting to see. This also kind of feels like a recency bias thing, doesn't it? Or maybe I'm Delulu. I'm a zombie nerd, and I have often dreamed about living in the zombie apocalypse. No more capitalism. Real life The Walking Dead. Is that second one a good thing, dog? Project Zomboid is perhaps the closest to that dream that I'll ever get. Project Zomboid is an isometric survival game that offers an in-depth simulation of apocalypse life with ridiculous detail in which you try to survive for as long as possible. To some, that'll prove overwhelmingly complex, and understandably so. It is a steep learning curve, but getting through that reveals an intricate survival sim that is impossible to put down. I'm not dreaming about it. A bit. It's gotten a resurrection a bit thanks to updates and blowing up a bit on Twitch, I think. Oh yeah, I guess that's probably true. I move on. TF2! Hey. The gold standard for class-based shooters. Class-based shooters? I guess they call the American Revolution something different in the UK. Despite regular Doom saying, one with proven timelessness. If it's possible to get bored of backstabbing a medic as spy, or landing a perfect double meat shot as scout, or air blasting a critical pipe bomb back into the owner's face as pyro, then I wouldn't know even after a decade and a half of playing. TF2 also has one of the most active creative communities in all of gaming. Its Steam Workshop and uncountable fan-made animation videos a testament to the enduring strength of Valve's character designs. I made myself laugh, but I was trying to move on. Kidding. I thought that headpiece was a white bob I had to lead in. I wish it fucking was. We don't need to talk about it. Don't say that. Don't say that. Does this mean Overwatch 2 is higher than Team Fortress 2? I don't think Overwatch 2 will be on here. Especially knowing RPS. Like, okay, knowing RPS, if there's any Blizzard game above this, it's gonna be Diablo 2. And I don't think anything else. I know surfing is traditionally a CS thing, but I miss surfing. Oh god, yeah, the surfing maps. Iconic. Like, I could imagine Overwatch being on here. I could imagine it, but I don't think it will be. And there's no fucking way Overwatch 2 is on here, because I don't think they like it. And thank God for that. And who does? But yeah, Diablo 2, I could... Like, if I had to guess any Blizzard game is going to be above TF2, it would be D2. And even then, I'm not super sure. We haven't seen something like that, have we? We haven't seen, what are these games even called? I guess just ARPGs, like those specific ARPGs like Diablo or Path of Exile. We haven't seen one, right? So I feel like there will probably be one. I could imagine Overwatch 1 being higher than TF2, but not Overwatch 2. Right, exactly. What if it was just right there? Half-Life Alyx. Oh, yeah. Half-Life Alyx is better than the Half-Life 3 I spent 13 years creating in my head. It advances the story of Half-Life in unforeseen ways, introduces brilliant new characters, and adds additional layers of depth to those who already know and love. To those you already know and love, Exclusive to VR headsets, it's easy to understand why Alyx didn't quite receive the wider acclaim it so clearly deserves. But it simply couldn't exist anywhere else. This is a bold leap forward for the tech, a showcase for just how immersive and tactile VR games can be. Alyx is a genuine masterpiece, but with such a steep barrier to entry, it remains widely inaccessible to most players. A shame. I don't know if y'all knew this, VR headsets fucking suck. They're really uncomfortable. And I don't want to buy a bunch of extra accessories just to make it basically comfortable. Oh, Kentucky Route Zero! How the fuck did I not guess KRZ was gonna be on here? Jeez Louise. It may have taken Cardboard Computer 7 years to release the full game, but it was well worth the wait. Kentucky Route Zero tells the story of Conway, a delivery driver whose last job tasked him with searching for the Zero, a lost underground highway that runs underneath Kentucky. Kentucky Route Zero may have magical realist elements, but it's ultimately very grounded, exploring tough subjects such as debt, homelessness, alcoholism, and death. It's a damning and devastating portrait of the U.S. from the perspective of small-town folk. KRZ tells the tales of those who have been forgotten, forced to forever wander the ghostly highways of Kentucky for eternity. Another one I still need to play. Yeah, I think I played the first, 2.5 episodes of KRZ, and then I put it down and forgot to pick it back up. This is, the shot that people use when they're talking about Kentucky Route Zero, and there's a reason for it, because the fucking Echosoils sign is so good. It's so good. Beautiful game. Alright, let's see. Infra? I do not know this game. Infra is the only game I know to open with a PowerPoint presentation. This first-person Exploro puzzle... Motherfucker. Exploro puzzle game puts you in the safety boots of a structural analyst in a Scandinavian city, exploring dams, sewers, waterworks, and power plants to snap photographs of health and safety violations, solve puzzles, and save the day. Now hang on a second. I'm a smallmouth bass, and that hook is in my fucking mouth. It's a touch wonky, but has an endearing weirdness and unpredictability which contrasts strongly with you doing a mundane job in mundane places, albeit the prettiest source engine-iest mundane places you ever did see. Half-Life 2 meets Myst, Deus Ex but a day job, surprising, fascinating. Wait, yeah, let them fucking cook. OSHA violations the game? If it's on a scale, not even on a scale, the mommy is Hard Space Shipbreaker, the daddy is Viscera Cleanup Detail, right? Okay, I've been lurking since 78, but what? Hey, Nardo, how you doing, my friend? I like how you heard OSHA violation, and you said, let me get into this fucking chat right now. The Godfathers or Umurangi Generation and something else, maybe Metal Gear, yeah. Come on now. Oh, Soma! Fuck yeah! I fucking love Soma! Yeah! Yeah, gamers! Let's go! Although Frictional are still more famous for the Amnesia series of survival horror games, Soma, which may as well be called Existential Crisis Under the Sea, remains my favorite Frictional game. You play as a man who has a brain scan one day in the present and inexplicably wakes up hundreds of years later in a research facility at the bottom of the sea. Said facility has been taken over by a rogue AI, and isn't that just always the way? And, as you uncover the horrifying truth about what happened to all the people in the facility, Soma takes care to put the psychological in psychological horror, asking you questions about self and personhood and how you even know that you are you, which, as Charlie Brooker would surely agree, is the scariest thing of all. Soma, my baby, I was waiting. I didn't even think about it. Y'all ever think about how many games there are in the world and how many of them are good? Because I thought of a lot of games. I thought of a good amount where I said, these 15, 20 will be on this list. And I forgot. I forgot to say Soma. I will say my main critique of Soma, which is why I think it's fair that it's not cracking like a top 25, although on a personal list for me it might crack top 25, is that this does not need to be a monster chasing you game. Then the best thing that they ever did was, I think 2 years after Soma came out, or maybe even longer, when it was gonna be on Epic, they introduced the easy mode, which is exactly the same, but the monsters don't aggro on you, and it's really, really hard to die. This game should have just been a walking sim. There's a lot of stigma around walking sims. I can understand that, Frictional games probably would have gotten a lot of flack if they made a straight up walking sim. But rip all the monsters out of this fucking game. They're not necessary at all. Oh, Skyrim babes! Ah, you're awake. Bigness is no quality without stuff to fill it. It's why I'm still... We can make jokes, but I'm going to move on. It's why I'm still unconvinced by the promise of Starfield's gajillion planets. But with Skyrim, it felt like Bethesda nailed the balance between scope and density, creating a fantasy nation that felt huge but always had something to investigate around the corner. At its best, Skyrim takes that curiosity-piquing, what's over there, feeling and escalates brilliantly. Spontaneous conversations turn into twisty, sprawling quests, and errant turns off the path lead to grand hidden valleys and unspoken of underground cities. What a wonderful world to explore, even with the bugs. I mean, I fucking love Skyrim. Like, I remember the marketing cycle for Skyrim, it coming out on 11/11/11. I have such fond memories of playing Skyrim super late at night, and like the music and just wandering around. The fucking sound of Nirnroot. I'm pretty sure it's Nirnroot, right? The glowing one that is like ee wherever you go. And yeah, it's so funny. Y'all know I can be kind of hard on Breath of the Wild. Most of the reason I'm hard on Breath of the Wild is because Skyrim exists, and I'm like, you're not the first to do this shit, girl. Who do you think you fucking are? Oh, look at that mountain, you can climb it. Guess who said it first, you little shit. I'm very that. Like, even though I'm not the biggest Skyrim fan in the world, I really like it. The mods are cool and everything. I've played it more than once, but that's why I'm so hard on Breath of the Wild, because I'm like, did we all just forget like one of the most critically acclaimed, most famous, most played, best-selling, most ported games of all time? Like, where am I? You know, it was so weird. But yeah, I like Skyrim a lot. I think I probably still have the box somewhere, the like the physical CD, even though we don't have a 360 anymore. I think I must have it somewhere. I think I even pre-ordered it, and I think I had like a big map or something. So many hours lost to Skyrim, oh yes. I felt like I missed the opportunity to play Skyrim in 2011. After that year, it just won't impress me like I think it will. That's probably fair. I guess for me, and this might be because I was young at the time. I was 12 when it came out, right? Like 12 and a half. Is that I didn't have as much of a concept of hype. Like, at that time, I didn't have a concept of indie games, right? So I was like, oh, every game comes out like a movie does. Like, I want to play Skyrim because I'm interested in it, not because I think it's going to be like the greatest thing ever, just because I didn't have that idea in my head as a kid. Like, I don't know what engines are, I don't really know what genres are, but that looks cool and I want to play it. So I feel like I went into Skyrim not thinking it would be impressive, but I was like, this is cool and I want to be in that world. And that's why I liked it. I found the world like just cool to be in. And even like at that age, very like the way that I approach any kind of game with a role-playing element, bitch, I am 1,000,000% immersed. Like, I am all the way in there. We've said this when I played Scarlet Hollow, which is that, like, for me, there's no meta-narrative. There's no metagaming. I'm playing the game as my character, and I was fully doing that as Skyrim. Because at that time there wasn't a hardcore mode in Skyrim. I think there's one now, but I was eating regularly. I would stay on the paths because I wanted to be polite. Like, I wouldn't try to, like, you know, game the system with the way that you can buy and sell things, because I would just buy and sell like a normal person would. And so I think when you approach an RPG or something like that in that sense of like, I want to be immersed and I just want to be in the world, I think the supposed impressiveness falls away, and that's when it's the most exciting. Like, I don't think I necessarily had an idea of the world being super big either in Skyrim, because again, I wasn't listening to like Giant Bomb or whatever. I wasn't watching E3 or anything at that age. I just knew it was like an open world, and so it was like, for me, everything that you find in Skyrim was like a discovery. Like, oh, there's this cool cave with trolls in it, and like there's this keep. I never even imagined something like that would be there. So I think Skyrim has probably aged pretty, but I don't know if it's aged poorly. I don't know if it has. And I think there's also mods, of course. For me, it's more that I like RPGs, but I don't really like the fantasy setting. So I'm kind of in between anytime I think about trying to play it. That's pretty fair. I think theirs has a teensy bit more character, because at this point, too, I've gotten very fatigued of, like, fantasy world with dragons and magic and elves. Hooray! I'm definitely not fucking sick of this. Like, the Norse aspect is kind of goofy, and a lot of things have done the Norse aspect before, but I think that and the amount of, like, snowy, wintry areas in Skyrim give it a bit of a unique flavor. But obviously your mileage may vary. Oh, I want to play Skyrim now. That's how you know it belongs on this list. I'm like, I want to play Skyrim now. I love the giant underground zone that you stumble into thing. Yeah! It's just so weird. Oh gosh, and then there's, I wonder, I don't think the Forgotten City will be on this list, but sometimes it's wild to think about that the Forgotten City was originally a Skyrim mod. I was gonna say, I see Persona 5 Royal. My thoughts about Nier Automata, my thoughts about Rule of Rose, pretty much apply here. Because what can you say? A stylish turn-based RPG with plenty of heart, Persona 5 Royal sees you join the Phantom Thieves, a group of high school teens who enter the twisted minds of dodgy characters and expunge their innermost demons. Build connections with your pals, and you're not only earning trust, you're gearing them up for battle. Royal remixes the original with a wealth of changes that further your life simming and give you your thievery added spice. A lengthy... I desiccate into a mummy. 120 plus hour journey awaits, but like all time spent with great friends, it can vanish in an instant. I didn't want to see her, but I'm not surprised. I forgot she was on PC, so I wasn't expecting to see her. But yeah. I mean, here's the thing. Persona 5 was never going to be for me, but you guys, I'm going to take a bold stance. I'm going to turn the music off so you guys know how serious I am. I'm going to take a very bold stance. I believe that pedophilia is wrong and bad. So, me and Persona 5 don't mesh very well. So, part is for me, you know, it's tough. Gosh, do you guys remember when Persona 5 came out? What's the phrase from Les Mis? When hope was high and life worth living? And we believed. You watch the first hour and a half or so of Persona, and you're like, oh my god, they get it. Anne is like being harassed by this creep just because of the way she looks, and she hates it. And like this guy, he doesn't understand what's going on, but he's going to... Oh, she's in a cat suit. Oh, he's romancing his teacher. Guess I'll fucking die. But yeah, Persona 5 Royal, very stylish. I restate that I think pedophilia is bad, and that's the bad thing about Persona 5. One of my favorite memes, it has directly come out of Persona 5, and Persona 5 fans making fun of themselves and also being made fun of that, like, Persona invented jazz, because that's how people act about a lot of music and video games. So I'm glad that meme exists at least. Oh, here we go. Here's BioShock. Okay, pretty high, like we expected, right? BioShock, the face that launched 1,000 takes. Part first-person steampunk sci-fi action-adventure, part answer to the question, how much can players misunderstand the explicit moral of a story? What's undeniable is that A, stomping around giant underwater city folly rapture, firing bullets of a gun in one hand, and B's out of your literal other hand is fun, and B, the story with all little girls sucking magic powers out of sea slugs and big lads like diving suits crossed with farm machinery has been very influential, as was the level design. It's easy to make jokes about it, as I have demonstrated, but BioShock is actually a very good FPS in a very cool setting, and is still probably the strongest of the three-part series. If you like steampunk alt history, shooting stuff, and ethics 101, then BioShock is inescapable. See, jokes again. BioShock, the game that's attached to my pipes game, right? My mini game. Yeah, I mean, what can you even say about this? The reviewer here, I think AB is Alice Bell, I'm pretty sure, really fucking nailed it. We could probably just go, honestly. But it is kind of weird to think about that, like, BioShock was the first. It did the dang thing. Hey, Hard Space Shipbreaker. I mentioned it a little bit earlier. Take derelict spaceships to pieces for fun and profit in this first-person salvager. It's immediately joyous to dynamically slice a spaceship with your laser cutter, and it's a joy that'll likely get you killed if you go slicing willy-nilly. As you learn how best to dismantle ships safely and profitably, Shipbreaker blooms into a quiet game of methodical process. It offers the satisfaction of a job well done, and your job is salvaging spaceships for a callous corporation. Cool. This is another one I need to get around to. As I've mentioned many a time before, I love games where you do menial tasks. I love Wilmot's Warehouse, I love Overcooked, I love Power Wash Simulator, love Viscera Cleanup Detail, as we looked at earlier. I want to play that fucking OSHA game. And so yeah, naturally something like Hard Space Shipbreaker, anti-capitalism, the delicate dance in space of taking apart ships very methodically and carefully. Yeah. The Power Wash Sim of late-stage space capitalism. Oh yes. Something soothing. Well, that's the thing is, like, there's like an elegance to labor that isn't recognized, I guess. Like, what's the word? what's the, you know, those accounts, it's like oddly satisfying accounts, and a lot of times it'll be like a person at a street vendor stand in Thailand, and they're like methodically slicing up some kind of fruit like super fast with like incredible precision, and like that's super cool, and that is manual, menial, mundane, boring labor, but it's super duper cool. It has like that aspect to it. Once again, famous phrase, love the phrase, there is no such thing as unskilled labor. And it's like you get to do unskilled labor, but like demonstrate your skill and do it in your free time for fun. There's just something about it. Definitely had the thought, do I enjoy this because my actual job is unfulfilling while playing it? And maybe. Oh no, Lovik, I'm sorry. I mean, that's the thing too, is it like, it gives you, just as well, it gives you the feeling of like productivity and doing something without actually having to tie money to it. No matter how fulfilling or unfulfilling your job is, like, it doesn't suck that you have to do it. Even if you do something that you totally love, it sucks that you have to do it. And sometimes it's worse if you like work for yourself, not worse, but an underserved aspect of like, if you work for yourself or if you do something that you love, is that you never clock out. You're always thinking about your job. You're always like doing something on the side. And so it's nice to be like, I can turn on this game whenever I want. I can turn it off whenever I want. And I'm going to do a little bit of labor just because I feel like it. And it's going to look cool. So yeah, more menial tasks in video games. I need more. I was going to say, I think I saw Pentiment on here. Pentiment is the game that made me immediately go out and buy The Name of the Rose. It's a medieval murder mystery with monks and manuscripts and a man called Andreas Mahler. And I've run out of M's. You start as a young Andreas, toiling in a monastery scriptorium when suddenly a bad murder occurs, and more over successive decades as you investigate and decide who the culprit was each time. That's not as much the point as it is seeing the devastating effects on the town and Andreas over time, both socially and politically. But the star at first sight is the gorgeous 2D animation and the animated text bubbles that appear as if written in wet ink by a careful hand. It's truly a lovely game to behold. Beautiful. It's funny too, like when it was coming out, hearing that part of it was that when Obsidian got bought by Xbox and therefore Microsoft, they got access to Microsoft's entire library of fonts, and that's like part of why they made this game. Is because they just said, cool fonts. We want to make a game with a lot of cool fonts. Again, something else that I should have guessed ahead of time. Whoa. Previous position 81? Up 55? Holy fucking shit. That's wild. Presumably what happened here is that in the previous year, several writers had it, but they had it lower in the top 10. And then in this one, a bunch of people added it at like 11 or 12, and that just like shot up its average really high. So yeah, that's the assumption for why that's such a huge jump, which makes sense just as well. I think if you're not like a tactics person, Into the Breach is not like super duper high for you, but you think, wow, what a great game, top 20 or something, you know? So that makes sense to me. Do you know where the word quintessential comes from? The internet will probably tell you that it refers to the fifth most exceptional element after the four known lesser elements of fire, water, earth, and air. A teacher also once told me it was derived from the practice of alchemy, that as metals were further and further refined to remove impurities, it was thought to achieve its purest and greatest form on the fifth refinement, hence the word quintessence. Wherever it actually comes from, though, I think both descriptions perfectly encapsulate what subset games have achieved with Into the Breach. It is simply the most perfect strategy puzzle box ever conceived, refined to its purest, most elegant form, and sitting comfortably above those that came before it. It is the quintessential strategy game, born of a rare magical alchemy whose like we've never seen again. Pure, bottled brilliance. There you go. Alright, let's see. No, okay, I'll read it. I'll read it. Between the overgrown cities, glistening lakes, and snow-blanketed mountain trails, Horizon Zero Dawn might showcase the prettiest post-apocalypse you'll ever see. Even so, I think the most impressive thing here is the ecosystem of machines, the clanking robosaurs that put the action into this action RPG. Their aggressive AI and diverse attack methods mean that fights are intense but rarely repetitive, and it's morishly rewarding to use timing and smarts to overcome laser-shooting mecha beasts while armed with the bow and spear. Some of HZD's tougher battles had me feeling like I was out of breath myself, covered in spilled oil and dodge roll induced cuts. Love it. The crickets. Where'd you get these crickets, Dak? Oh, it's BTG. Oh, those are funny. Low-key surprised they put it on the list. I expected like Spider-Man. Yeah, I was expecting Insomniac Spider-Man. To be fair, I didn't think of Horizon Zero Dawn primarily because I forgot that it was on PC now, but also I think it sucks. So whatever. The dinos are cool, everything else aside. Yes, absolutely, I agree. I mean, it really does say, like, when Guerrilla were making up the concept for the game, when they were conceiving the game, they thought dinosaur robots. And you can tell that that was the first thing they thought of, because everything else, whatever, let's get out of here. I think I bitched about Horizon literally yesterday, didn't I? Bet Last of Us will be on the list next year when they'll hopefully fix the PC port. Oh, maybe, yeah. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Last of Us and Spider-Man were on the rest of the list, but I don't even know. If you don't have the patience for the death loop of roguelikes, guilty! I would still recommend you play Hades. Developer Supergiant Games nailed the most important rule of any roguelike: make failure fun. Scampering through the underworld as Hades' son, splicing and dicing monsters is great, but you know what's better? Learning the juicy histories and family dramas of the Greek gods, that's what. Unlockable weapons and abilities switch up each run's playstyle, but each failure means you get more opportunities to chat with the gods, and wow, they are a gossipy bunch. Excuse me again. Supergiant have yet to make a game that's not an absolute banger, and Hades is the best of the bunch. Also, all the characters are super hot, so there's that. Yeah, I get it, everybody's hot. Everybody says that in this dang game. To the point, like, it's just that also all the characters are hot. That is a sentence is so omnipresent in Hades reviews, I never want to see it again. Like, I get it. You want to fuck Dionysus, even though he looks ashy. I get it. Hades is like the exception of the Deathloop style of games for me. I think it's a lot of people's exception story. I mean, it seems like they built it from the ground up to play off of the Deathloop. No pun intended, because there's a game called Deathloop as well. Oh, you know what? We haven't seen Dishonored. No fucking way we're not seeing Dishonored. It makes you feel like Spider-Man. All the characters are hot. Yes, 100%. They should have that on a sticker on the game box. I think so too, Panda. It would be good. Hades is a great roguelite for non-roguelite players. Yeah, it's a gateway jug. A genre-defying. Vampire Survivors. An action RPG triple distilled into a garlicky tonic, Vampire Survivors was our game of the year in 2022. And for good reason. You walk about, you auto-attack hordes of monsters, you level up, get stronger, and rinse more monsters, all possible with one hand and a pack of crisps. Joy lies in experimenting with power-ups and seeing not only how they might react to one another, but in how your auto-attacking sprite might transform into an unstoppable force of chaos swirling around them, often by accident. Happy accidents, as Bob Ross would say. Was wondering when that would show up. I forgot about it. Vampire Survivors is fine. I was never super interested in it. And frankly, it will only get worse because I had to play it for work, so I kind of had to speedrun unlocking everything. So I played like 40 hours of this game in a week, which wasn't good. My opinion hasn't gotten worse, which is impressive, honestly. So it's probably fun, but to begin with, not for me. But good for her. Yeah! Oops, spoilers. SpongeBob SquarePants movie, the beginning of SpongeBob SquarePants movie, when SpongeBob thinks that he won Employee of the Year or the manager of the new one. Yeah! Yeah! I did it! Whoa! Previous position 12? Now we got some splaited to do. Telltale's whole Walking Dead adventure is some of their best work, but season 1 is the one, you know? Lee and Clem's short-lived time together is always the one game that made your mate at the pub cry, and for good reason. the little Britishism sprinkled in there. It immediately sets up a crew that you genuinely want to survive, and then hands you the keys to drive that story. As you play through each episode, you're faced with tough choices and constant twists that leave you desperately eager to plunge straight into the next episode. It's an endlessly enthralling episodic adventure, up there with the greatest of the genre, and is still Telltale's biggest accomplishment. I guess I need to play this one? I'd say so. We're overselling it a little bit, with the obvious caveat that this is from 2012, and this is also Telltale's first, like, big game where they, like, started this formula. The episodicness, weensy bit of jank to it. Playing the game, fair amount of jank. It has aged. I think the story holds up 90%. Like, I can't remember, like, huge missteps in the story, but maybe that's just age making me forget. I say age like I'm old. I just mean time has passed, making me forget some of the more unsavory parts about it. But, I mean, this is a top 10 game for me, genuinely. The X will remember that thing, age with overuse. The X will remember that. Just trying to move your character in the world, stuff like that. I played in, like, the 2 Batman ones, the Borderlands one, Wolf Among Us, but I didn't vibe with this one the one time I tried it. Fair. Grandma Lotus. I got a case of the vapors. I think that's fair, though. If you played successive Telltale games, especially like TWoW, where I feel like they kind of refine the formula a little bit more. I'm not as big a fan of the storytelling in TWoW, so I just don't care that the gameplay is better. I don't like the story as much. Dark Souls. It's become a bit of a thing to roll one's eyes at Dark Souls, and I think it's a shame. The game's a challenging action RPG where you'll explore an all-timer of an intertwining map and get kicked into some catacombs by a balding hyena. Perhaps most of all, I think it centers around discovery through a sense of self-discovery, forcing you to learn through repeated deaths until you reach a solution, and often what follows is pure elation. Also, play the Prepare to Die edition, I beg of you. The remastered edition may have provided some quality of life improvements, but do you really want to play a version entirely devoid of a dreamlike mystique and beauty? Trust me on this one. I love a recommendation being in there, telling you the proper one to play, because we know that remasters and director's cuts are a complicated web to navigate. Place your bets what we see in other Souls games on this list. Elden Ring will be top 5, 100%. If you're going to put any Dark Souls game, any Souls game, because there's Demon Souls too, it's going to be Dark Souls, I think. And then Bloodborne Bloodborne's never coming to PC, folks. Bloodborne will come to PC when Steam gets an update and In the Valley of Gods comes out. Then Inscription. Okay, I was wondering earlier when we saw Slay the Spire, I was like, Slay the Spire is so low. I feel like we would have seen Inscription by now, but no, I was wrong. I was completely wrong. Let's go! A deck builder with a sinister slant. Inscription's pressure to succeed stems from your opponent. Pearl white eyes that loom out of the dark. A gnarled claw wrapping on wood. A wood might mean you get closer to escaping from this creep in the cabin he's locked you in. Look around and you might just find a way to overcome his fickle games. Listen to the babble of your cards. Tear them apart with a pair of scissors. Get your hands bloody, and it's remarkable how deep its well of strategy runs, and where it might take you. But also only 20th? Oh, down 7 from 13. I wonder what's above this then. I just started this again playing the mod, which is just the card game. I need to get into that bit of it, Nardo, because I like the card game a lot. Funnily enough, a lot of my disappointment with an Inscription is that it's not what it is on the surface level. Like, when I saw, oh, it's a roguelite card game, but also you're in a cabin and it's like an escape room, I was like, yes, fuck yes. And then, no spoilers, whatever. But when it started going other places, I was like, man, I wanted point and click adventure with a roguelike card game in between sections of me solving ridiculous puzzles. Like, I wanted Escape Room, The Sick Colleague, where there's a serial killer and you're in a serial killer basement, but also a card game. So, I appreciate a good rug pull. That's fair. The thing is, because it was a Daniel Mullins game, I was already like, okay, something else is going to happen. You know what I mean? So I guess it wasn't as much of a rug pull as I expected. I can see why people were so excited, especially because the difference between point A and point B is so visually drastic. But I was like, oh damn, it's not the thing I wanted to do. And also, I already kind of knew it was coming, so the surprise wasn't as preserved for me. Oh yeah, these are on PC. Sorry, let me be a real Brit. The best of a fantastic bunch, Yakuza 0 is a melodramatic descent into the seedy criminal underbelly of Japan. The story follows the origin stories of series icons Kiryu and Majima as they get embroiled in a conflict over a plot of land, with both of their arcs twisting into each other with surprises at every turn. Not only is it a masterclass in storytelling, it's a masterclass in finding genuine fun in your free time. Race little cars, run a hostess bar, have a chicken run your real estate business, all of them somehow offering life lessons amidst the laughter. Do sex. Every conspiracy theory of the late 90s collides in this seminal cyberpunk immersive sim. 23 years on, the ideas of Deus Ex still feel fresh, even when the implementation can feel dated. It is still a joy to skulk in perpetual night as a cyborg secret agent who, bless his heart, has no idea what's going on around him. As JC Denton explores secret bases, hides in vents, picks locks, tranks enemies, hacks security bots, uncovers secrets, discovers hidden areas, and chats philosophy, the globetrotting adventure is still a delight. You're thinking about replaying it right now, aren't you? Is that how you're supposed to pronounce Deus Ex? No, I just think it's funny, sorry. I'm sorry for the confusion. It's a bit weird, but I see a lot of parallels between Deus Ex and Disco Elysium. I don't think that that's weird. I think that makes sense as well, especially because Deus Ex is so seminal, as they say. I feel like this means there's not going to be System Shock 2 on here, though, which is interesting. If I had to guess for RPS, I would have guessed that they would lean System Shock 2 as opposed to leaning Deus. Now I keep pronouncing it wrong because I fucked around too much. Deus Ex. But yeah, like, I see where you're coming from with the through line of, like, it's like, you know when you're a kid and you hear about conspiracy theories for the first time and you're like, haha, it's so funny that, like, anyone believes this, and then you make a meme out of it, and then there's maybe a stage where you start to believe them a little bit, but then you're like, that's ridiculous, and then you become a communist. That's why there's a through line between Deus Ex and Disco Elysium. Like, I can see the line. It's a straight line. It's just a particular path that people take. You know what I mean? So, like, I see it for sure. It's more, yours was more about parallels, but, like, I definitely see what you're saying. Oh, Outer Wilds at 17. Lower than I thought it would be for them. And then you become a communist. Hey, who's to say? Anything could happen. Detective games often thrive on small canvases. Spread your mystery too thin and you run the risk of losing its threads altogether. But with Outer Wilds, Mobius Digital proved that you can have an entire solar system as your own personal corkboard if you're bold enough, even if it does have the unfortunate side effect of going supernova and destroying itself every 22 minutes. Despite these time loop constraints, Outer Wilds and its planet-hopping mystery about what happened to its ancient and very extinct Nomai race is just expertly plotted, and is yet another game that occupied every waking thought of mine while I was playing it. If there was ever a game that could live rent-free in my head until the end of time, it's Outer Wilds and its team of banjo twanging explorers. Yeah, I fucking love Outer Wilds. I don't know if Outer Wilds is my number one. It's constantly fist-fighting Return of the Obra Dinn in my head. But it might edge it out. It probably depends on what day you ask me, but I think Outer Wilds wins. Oh, these are on PC. Oh, that's right. They are on PC. The storytelling in Outer Wilds is just so fucking... Oh, and the OST for Outer Wilds. I do think of them banjos all the damn time. Yeah, and like letting you put the mystery together. Feels good, feels right. The original Phoenix Wright trilogy is still one of the greatest visual novel series you can play today, but it's Capcom's pair of Victorian-era prequels starring Phoenix Wright's ancestor Ryunosuke that have just edged, worthed, ahead in our wider estimation. Part of that's down to its more modern and characterful 3D visuals and its beautifully animated cast of suspicious ne'er-do-wells as they squirm under pressure inside its imposing courtrooms. But the mysteries themselves are also just jolly good fun. Taking Ryunosuke, his assistant Susato, and even Herlock Sholmes on a wild ride of escalating conspiracy theories, devious murder plots, exploding machines, and thrilling trials. As prequels, they also operate as brilliant standalone adventures too, meaning you don't need any prior Phoenix Wright sleuthing knowledge to enjoy them. Like one of rival lawyer Barak von Zeke's fine red wines, this is a game you want to savor every last drop of. Outer Wilds is one of the only really good modern sandbox games, agreed. Like it said, go wild, but also watch out for the end of the universe, yeah. Like the way it does its time loop is just fucking brilliant. It's so smart, so cool. Red wines, that man is a vampire. Hey. Red wines. No, they didn't. I'm not surprised to see Great Ace Attorney, but I forgot that this was on computers. I sincerely and fully did. Just because I associate, of course, Ace Attorney of being DS games. Oh, the pun. That as well. They love a good pun here. That's the great British tradition that Rock, Paper, Shotgun keeps alive, is a fucking pun every once in a while. Boo. Sorry, I'm kidding. Well, Apex Legends is the king of battle royales and has been ever since its surprise release in 2019. Whenever I return to Apex after playing a different shooter for a while, I fall in love all over again with the movement, the gunplay, the maps, well, one map in particular, Olympus Lovers Unite, boo, and the incredibly well-balanced roster of legends. All 24 heroes play wildly differently to one another. They all have hidden depths that it can take hours of play to discover and utilize, and most importantly, they're all brimming with character and incredibly fun to play, just like Apex itself. Although I suppose I should have guessed this from how high they had TF2, Titanfall 2. For anyone who might be new here, I had an ugly video game breakup with Apex Legends. I used to play it all the time, and then they introduced Loba to the game, who is, without parallel, the most disgusting caricature, the most racist caricature of a Latina in video games, period. She puts other racist ass Latina stereotypes like sombra to absolute shame. And what I was talking about earlier when I was talking about fighting games is that to a greater degree than any female character in any game ever, any character in every game ever, she made me so uncomfortable that I stopped playing Apex Legends. And after a time, the thing is, it was especially bad on release because she had even more overtly sexual lines that since got like buried in her other lines. And then also, of course, she was the release hero, so everyone was playing her. She was fucking inescapable. The other thing is that, like, I started to take it as a sign, but if y'all remember back when Apex was still on Origin, and even for a while it was on Steam, it had basically every single time an update came out, it would just brick your fucking game, and you had to uninstall and reinstall it, and it would take hours, especially because my internet wasn't super good at this time. Like, every third update would just break something and my computer couldn't run the game anymore. And so it like the third time in a row that it broke and Loba was still making me super uncomfortable, I was like, you know what? I think I need to take this as a sign and just not come back to the game. So I haven't come back to the game since. Sometimes I think about it because what Starry alluded to, Starry said, I found Lotus 2 Apex Discovery page. Thank you, Starry. A lot of people found me through Apex, and some of my like best stream memories are from the times when I would play Apex every single Friday. That's the tough thing. The reason that why I call it like a breakup with Apex Legends and why I say it was so ugly is because I really like playing Apex Legends. I thought it was so much fun. Some of my best memories are of playing Apex, both because of how I was playing it and because of where my channel was at the time and like all this stuff. And I'm just like, they may not have fumbled the bag, but they fumbled me. And if you can't get me, The movement feels so good, the guns feel so good. It's such a well-made game. But they made so many unforced errors, and pretty much all of them are racial and specifically involve Latinas. So it's upsetting. It's really upsetting. So that's why I make fun of Apex a lot. For anyone who might not have known, but I think it's a wonderfully made game, and I honestly think this is a very fair placement on this list. It's just that I'd be remiss not to mention all of the problems with it that are still, like Nardo says, never corrected, almost never acknowledged. Anyways, the bottom line, Apex is a wonderful game to play. It's so well designed, but I have fallen out of love with her. She has made loving her impossible, especially because they added another Latina, and she's also a criminal. I get that there's going to be backstory stuff, and she probably isn't, but whatever. So it's a tough one out here, folks. Maybe eventually I'll come back. Mass Effect 2? I'm being microaggressed. I've often said that Mass Effect 2 is my favorite ever game, with the caveat that one must first have played the first Mass Effect. Both are operatic sci-fi space RPGs about life and death choices that build as you race to save the entire galaxy, alongside squad members of aliens and space marines that you can kiss or get killed. But one has terrible controls and is kind of a balash to play. Oh, ball ache. Not me thinking it's French. A ball ache. Sheesh. So you do the maths. Mass Effect 2 gussies up the combat, giving you cooler space magic, biotic powers should you want them, and throws in some new and beloved characters to your crewmates. Plus, if it were possibly, it really raises the stakes vis-a-vis the galaxy ending stuff, and the seeds that were planted in the first game start to sprout in what is now BioWare's impressive Your Choices Matter style. Balash. Oh, hey, Heaven's Vault. I was saying I thought we would see it again. Oops. But I didn't know it would be this high. God damn, that's really high. Shoutouts, Inkle. Previous position 59, up 46 places. Sheesh. Heaven's Vault is one of those games that defies easy categorization. Even the standard RPS up shorthand would have to be translated up, and that's leaving a lot out. You play as an archaeologist in a space nebula connected by a group of strange space rivers, translating artifacts and messages left by an ancient civilization. You only know a little of their language and must build up your dictionary, tinkering with it as you explore with your robot pal to uncover the secrets of your home system. It's beautiful and imaginative, and years later is still probably unlike anything else you've played. Now I'm going to pronounce it like that, Abalash. Whoops. Sorry, I've never seen the word ball ache put together. Like, I've seen ball ache, but not a balake. Has anyone played Heaven's Vault? Again, I think we said this earlier when we were looking at 80 Days, but I've heard so many good things about it and have still yet to play it. So, oops. Yeah, my backlog. Wait, can you guys read the description? Power wash simulator. How does one even do it? Shoutouts to AB again. I'm pretty sure that that's Alice Bell. Was that good? Am I a real ASMR artist now? They knew they didn't have to say nothing. They didn't have to say a fucking thing. They said enjoy your ASMR game. I mean, what is there to say about it as well? What is there to say about it is that I need to film more ASMR videos of me playing Power Wash Simulator because I keep meaning to and then forgetting. Because I enjoy doing it, but then I forget to film because it takes like an hour. Because I go very slowly because ASMR. I used Power Wash Simulator to wind down after work and to give my brain time and space to go where it likes. Ooh, yes. I feel like people usually use this a bit flippantly, but such a good podcast game, podcast video essay on the side. Ooh, it's just right. It's just right. Yeah, it's a great fucking game. Shoutouts to Future Lab and them sticking to their guns where everyone that they shopped it to was like, no, it needs to have combat. What do you do? Where are the missions? And they said, no, it's just for fun. Easy. Oh, Paradise Killer. I forgot this game existed. I don't really like Paradise Killer. Personally, it's not really for me. But, good for her. The detective genre was in desperate need of a shakeup, and Paradise Killer is the equivalent of setting off a glitter gun in an old man's pub. Undoubtedly one of the most stylish games of recent years, Paradise Killer is an assault on the eyeballs, but in the best way possible. Playing as Lady Love dies, you need to investigate a homicide case on the beautiful vaporwave Paradise Island. It's a very hands-off detective game that lets you unravel the mystery at your own pace, meaning you need to collect evidence, talk to witnesses, and follow up leads all on your own intuition and logic. You can even end the game when you like, just point the finger and see if you're right. If you've put in the work, it shouldn't be a problem, right? Oh, thank you for the clip, Sparks. Surprised to see Paradise Killer here? I'm not surprised. I am surprised it's quite so high, I suppose, but it says it jumped 43 spaces, so hey. But I love detective games. RPS loves and appreciates detective games and puzzles, so it does make sense. My main problem with Paradise Killer is that it's too much of proper noun soup, which I complain about on and off, but it's like everything is a fucking proper noun, and you have an encyclopedia and it's great, but a lot of things would maybe be better served. Like, I get that it's for style points, but for me, Paradise Killer's style eclipses everything else about it, and while the style is beautiful, it actively negatively impacts other parts of it. Don't call a rabbit a smeep. Panda, I'm adding this as a quote because I think that's really fun. That's it distilled into its purest form. Don't call a rabbit a smeep. I had a good time but was disappointed in the ending. Oh, I didn't even know the ending of Paradise Killer. I got out of there earlier. I think if we're able to peel the screenshot off the website, you'd find Homestuck behind it. We have 2 faux Homestucks in there. Well, 3 if you count Undertale. Because, of course, Megalovania is originally from a Halloween hack of Earthbound. And then it's from Homestuck, and then it's in Undertale. Lovic, I wanted to like it more than I did. Me too, because I heard it was a detective game, and I was like, yeah, let's fucking go. And then it just didn't get me. It wasn't for me. But let's see. Oh, I didn't even think of Bloodlines. How could I not have thought of Bloodlines? Yeah. Fuck yeah. Through the sheer force of its noirish allure, Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines was able to rise far above its immensely troubled development and launch to become a widely acknowledged cult classic. Based in the World of Darkness TTRPG setting, Bloodlines is an action RPG that actually manages to translate the essential appeal of the tabletop source material into the medium of a video game. Featuring a solid cast of characters in a wide variety of ways for your fledgling vampire to interact with and influence the world around them, Bloodlines still feels bang on trend nearly 2 decades later. Rip to whatever happened is happening to Pantera. Everything happening with the World of Darkness IP, I'd like to forget about it. I drink to forget. But I don't really drink a lot of alcohol, so this is just water. Look up the quality of life mods, because it had a really troubled development. It ended up really fucking buggy. And there's a bunch of mods that help combat, because the original combat kind of sucks dick. And not in the fun and sexy way, because sucking dick and cock is fun, in a shitty way. And it's also just like, it helps fix the bugs and fix some crashes and stuff, similar to kind of what you would need for a modern playthrough of Fallout New Vegas, just to stabilize it. So be sure to get those in there. Top 10, what's number 9? Stardew Valley. That's a good pick. I've played many hours of Stardew Valley. I've 100%ed Stardew Valley when I was depressed in college. Stardew Valley took a bit of a tumble on this list in 2022. Look at that. It was at 61 up to 52. But this year it shot back up to number 9, a worthy place for this farming juggernaut. The spiritual successor to Harvest Moon has been the go-to game for life sim and farming fans. It appeases both casual farm hands looking for something relaxing to kick back with, and hardcore farming enthusiasts hoping to build a vegetable empire. With plenty of activities to do and neighbors to chat with just beyond your homestead, this utterly charming farming sim will almost certainly eat up your hours. Yeah, it's probably been said to death. This is why I think it's kind of weird how low Undertale was, because it gets over-talked a lot. Stardew Valley is a wonderful game, but I think it's over-talked to the point where, like, no matter how good it is, I would find myself subconsciously putting it lower than it probably deserves, just because I see it so much. And then there are also very valid criticisms of it being extremely not diverse, and there's lots of mods that look to add diversity. And then of course there's other games coming out inspired by Stardew, like Coral Island. They want to be more diverse looks and maybe a little bit more of a focus on the romance. But I love living day to day on the farm. I love growing my crops. I love fishing. There's not much else to say, is there? We all know Stardew Valley. We all know her. Number 8. Well, okay, what did I say? I already got Outer Wilds that I said was going to be on here. Return of the Obra Dinn. Dishonored. Oh, and Hades was already on here too. What the fuck are the rest of these gonna be? Return of the Obra Dinn, Dishonored, Portal, Elden Ring, probably a Half-Life or a Black Mesa. What else? Oh, I did say I think I'd see Spider-Man, but I don't know if I don't think we'll see Spider-Man top 10. And I don't know what the hell else is gonna be here. I'm biased, but I'd love to see Black Mesa on this list. Hey, we'd love to. I mean, no matter what, right? Number 6 is Breath of Just Done. You think Spider-Man could be 5-10? I can see that. Like, I can see an individual easily putting it in top 10, but I can't see all of them doing it. You know? That's what's tough. Anyways, let's just... Anticipation, let's move on. Oh, hey. Hey, who's she? A game with a world so expansive and dense, I don't think I'll ever wrap my head around it. Elden Ring is From Software's most approachable action RPG, encouraging you to push into its fogs of war and seek out fresh challenges to replace your insurmountable ones. It might trade the interlocking mystery of its predecessors for sheer breadth, but the quality doesn't ever seem to drop. Is this the definitive Souls experience? Maybe not. But my word, is it an adventure for ardent fans and greenest of newcomers. Alright, let's see. The Sims 2! The Sims 2! The Sims 2! Where's Dex? Dex, if you were lurking, come right back. We did it, Joe. The Sims 2 is here. Let's go. I can't believe it. I'm calling to Ambrose across state lines, across time zones. We did it. 4 generations into the blockbuster life simulation franchise, The Sims 2 still stands out as the pinnacle of the series. This was the game that introduced Simmers to fully 3D graphics, a detailed character creation suite, a life cycle that included aging, genetics, and generations, days of the week, injecting some variety into your Sims routines, and countless other milestone firsts that would go on to become series staples. While the third and fourth mainline Sims titles have plenty of appeal, not least the fact that you can still buy them, there's been no period of innovation since to rival The Sims 2. The memories. The memories of The Sims 2 and the memories of the ASMR for 5 minutes. I feel like it's been a long time since this got redeemed. I will say I do know some of the mysteries of The Sims 2, none the least of which a YouTuber I really recommend is Izzy's. I'll link the video in a second here. But they are a creator who deals a lot with like Zoomer nostalgia, Thousands era nostalgia, like the history of like edgy AMVs, warrior cats. They just did a video that's like the Tumblr controversy iceberg, Neopets, all this stuff. And they have a couple of videos on The Sims, including one called The Mysteries of The Sims 2, where they go over Bella Goth and everything, all of it. And it's a great video that I would recommend. Oh gosh, look, The Sims used to be at number 27. The Sims 2, Bella Goth, the aliens, everything about it. Yeah, Mice Rat. We got so far down, I didn't think Mice Rat would appear. But let's fucking go. ASMR, excited screaming, let's fucking go. Minecraft. What even is Minecraft? To me, it's an exploration game. The chance to travel across seas and plunge into caves that no living soul has seen before. To someone else, it might be a creative tool, a means of rearranging the atoms of the universe itself to build stunning structures and fantastical machines. To someone else, it might be a second home, a simulated but always accessible place in which they work, eat, converse, and sleep. I can't say for sure what Minecraft is, but I know why it's so high on this list. It enables all those things, and more, brilliantly. Alright. Okay, yeah, Dishonored 2. Yeah. I just said Dishonored, but I should have said 2, but y'all know. Still the champion supreme of stealth games and immersive sims, Dishonored 2 remains my favorite PC game of all time, but not perhaps for the reasons you might expect. We all know it's a bona fide classic of a genre, but my personal passion for it was partly born out of my own misunderstanding of how the first game's chaos system worked. After royally biffing the good low chaos ending, I made it my mission with Dishonored 2 to not only do a completely clean run, but to ghost it as well and remain completely invisible. It was a tall order, but wrestling with these objectives only deepened my appreciation of the sheer cleverness of Arkane's craft and design. There's still nothing quite like it, and even today, each of its levels feels like a devious puzzle box just waiting to be picked apart and put back together again, albeit never quite in the same order, or with the same components. It's brilliant in every sense of the word, and a true masterpiece. I never played this because I couldn't decide which character to play. Well, do you support women's rights or what? Because I'm a lesbian and because of the company I keep, no one ever made a choice. I have to tell you. I don't know a single person who didn't play Emily. We're so predictable, aren't we? We can talk about queer stereotypes and how they're negative till the cows come home. But we're so fucking predictable. We're so simple. And that includes gay men, too. That includes everybody in the umbrella. The Lovic of today would have no problem with the decision. There you go. Alright, let's see. Yeah! Citizen Sleeper. Wake up, sleeper. Citizen Sleeper had a huge impact on the RPS treehouse last year, which has deservedly catapulted it straight into our collective top 5. A mighty achievement I have no doubt will be replicated in several future versions of this list as well. Set on the fringes of outer space in a makeshift colony of runaways and outlaws, this is an RPG that fuses the cold, hard finality of tabletop dice rolls with a warm, gooey core of human storytelling. Its evocative text logs not only conjure fantastic and beautiful images in the moment, but its tales of survival, revenge, and corporate conspiracy are also expertly paced across multiple days and cycles as you go about your daily routines of keeping yourself fed and maintaining your robotic body. Fuck me, that was a run-on sentence. The luck of the dice roll means it won't always go your way, but never has failure or fighting against the odds felt so thrilling and worthwhile. They've been final updating Terraria for like 2 years, I know. Yeah, Citizen Sleeper, nice choice. I still need to really get into it. I watched Azalea play quite a bit of it. And then I was like, yeah, I'm going to play it soon. Well, although I will say I did predict it was in my 22 PC indie games coming out in 2022 list. I'm a tastemaker, even though I haven't played it again. Let's keep it pushing. Okay, Half-Life 2 is out here. All right. Never mind 2004. You can boot up Half-Life 2 today and it still plays like an absolute banger. Its fast, dynamic, kinetic shooting has aged just as well as its deft sci-fi storytelling and instantly recognizable techno-gloom aesthetic. Ooh, techno-gloom, that's a fun word. And outside of maybe Titanfall 2, I still don't think I've played another FPS campaign that keeps itself so fresh and revisitable. Half-Life 2 is a master of introducing new twists to combat or traversal, teaching you in its ways, then either folding it into your arsenal or dropping it for something else new before it gets dull. A masterclass in game building with care, thought, and intent behind every square inch. Damn, we got 2 more to go. What are the last 2? It's gotta be Portal and Return of the Obra Dinn. Last 2. Okay. I don't know why I'm getting excited like I'm on a fun... like it's fantasy football and I'm gambling or something. But it's like all of us are on the edge of our seats and I don't know why. I don't know why I'm adding this energy to the mix, but here's where we are. -1. It used to be in the first spot, now it's in 2. It doesn't take much detective work to realize we love a good murder mystery here at RPS, but Return of the Obra Dinn is simply in another league entirely when it comes to its artful construction and execution. Told through a series of monochromatic vignettes frozen in time, the tale of this ill-fated passenger ship is gradually eked out through the eyes and bodies of its many victims and murderers. Your magical pocket watch reconstructing the moments leading up to each crew member's death so you can file an appropriate damages report to your employers. Determining the identity and cause of death for each of its 60 lost souls is no easy task, however, and you'll really have to get down in the weeds of your deduction to complete your logbook, and may have slipped a position compared to last year, but Obra Dinn remains the finest piece of detective work we've ever seen. T. I have this game just waiting for my smooth brain to forget the story after watching you play it. Oh gosh, yeah, I remember that, Nardo. I remember I streamed it 2 days in a row, right? And the second day, I got so addicted, I just streamed for like 6 hours and finished it. And even though I think it was just like you and Percy in chat. Fond memory. That was a fun time. It was so good. We need a drum roll. It is Portal 2! Yay, we're geniuses! We're geniuses! Remember Portal? It's those amazing physics puzzles in a mysterious science facility, but bigger and with better jokes, and with Stephen Merchant putting in one of the greatest voice acting turns in games by playing, essentially, the character of Stephen Merchant. Valve done did it again. When I was 21, a time in my life when I'm quite sure I was insufferable, I played Portal 2's co-op levels with a guy who lived hundreds of miles away and had such a great time that I was compelled to get on a train for 4 hours, spend one of the worst nights of my life with this boy, only to suffer the indignity of getting on the train home the next day hungover, and for him to almost immediately stop talking to me. That's how fun Portal 2 is. It will ruin your life in an extremely localized and inconsequential fashion. OP, are you good? What a blurb. I know, what a blurb. That's so funny. There wasn't a Halo game on the list. Right? Right? I guess it kind of tracks, but I also feel so shocked, right? Like Halo Combat Evolved is a classic. But the thing is, Panda, all of them are on PC now because of the Master Chief Collection. So, you know, they put shit like Horizon Zero Dawn on here. So ports are 100% counted. I see Oregon. Oh, you're right. I do see it. Yeah, kind of surprising. No Halo game made it to the list proper.